You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. It's May. We're deep in May. It feels like May's going by super fast in a way. We're already, 25% done with the month. My younger brother, is headed back home for Houston, for a couple of weeks. And then he'll be back to Philly for the summer for his internship at City Council. So I'm super excited about that. I'm a big American Airlines guy, got the advantage points. I have like 500,000 miles that I've accumulated through time. And also got the black card and the advantage aviator card and all that stuff. But like, I've been really loving American Airlines. I've been into it. So one of the things I did that was really cool is that now, because I'm all into the points and the miles and all that kind of stuff, I have taken a lift off of my parents' shoulders by buying my brother's flights when he goes home, which apparently is a very nice thing to do because I guess flights are so high that, parents love to get lifted off the burden of having not to pay for a flight. So that's what I do. But yeah, I got an opportunity because it was just him going that I was able to just upgrade him to first class because of my status. And he's never rode first class before, so he's like all excited. So he's headed off this week because classes are over and he's going to be a junior in the fall. Where did the time go? Like, what's going on? Like, I'm not ready for all of this. But he's about to be a junior at Temple. So he's going to be here this summer, which is exciting. Entering a city council with his brother-in-law, who is also at city council. So it should be fun. And who knows, maybe I will be a part of city council in some unique way. We'll find out, wink, wink. But it's a lot going on. And it's good stuff. I mean, this past weekend was a joy. The weather was really nice. I really feel like we're in spring, even though the weather, it gets disrespectful throughout the week. There's been these moments of like, oh, it's spring. And then I step outside, I'm like, yeah, springish. The weather gets cold again. It's been up and down all around, but I've been, staying woke on it all. But to kick off May, last week you all caught me out there with those New Balances, the 990s. They were cute. I had my shoes. Y'all found out what I put my shoes to work. I did the baseball experience, came out there to support the Pennsylvania American Heart Association. We had this media run. Well, the crazy thing is that we did have to wear tennis shoes, okay? Which I did wear. But I thought we were going to do like a real softball type of thing. Y'all, all it was like the little ball shooter, and we just had to hit the ball. However far we pitched or that we hit the ball or whatever, that's how they accumulate the points. We didn't win, but we did try. CBS 3-1 again. That's because they had this Brandon Bell, I believe he's the sports guy, anchor. He's a black dude, real tall. He looks good. He, was like just knocking those balls down. Apparently he played baseball years ago or some stuff. I was like, see, that's not fair. It's not fair. But he did his thing, So they won the trophy, but PABJ was in that building. We definitely we're gonna work on it. Cause now that I know that we not having to bring that much attention. See, I thought if it came to catching the ball, running to the bases, I had that on lock. I get there, it's just hitting the ball. I'm like, well, damn. Cause see, I thought there was gonna be some real physical activity. It wasn't all of that, but it was still nice. It was a good opportunity to check out the Phillies and all of that. And I'll be back for a game actually in a couple of weeks for another event with the Lip Brothers. So we're excited about baseball. We saw the Philly Flyers. I think my goal is to try this year, at least to some extent, to try to go to all the games. But I really don't fuck with the NFL, so I don't really know about the Eagles. And the 76ers, you know what I'm saying? I mean, This arena situation got me feeling some type of way. So maybe it's just gonna be Phillies and Flyers this year, and then next year we'll see where everybody else get their shit together. But we're trying to expand our scope, people. So we're excited. But Citizens Park was nice. It was a really great weather. We had the whole field to ourselves, and it was a great time. So I did have a good time. They had me with the little photo shoot with the bat, getting in position with the shoes. I like to bring it out. But yeah, I'm having a good time. It's been a good day. Recording, as you can see, I'm all bubbly and light. I had a really, really great nap. I like to have a good nap on weekends. Mm. I'm sipping on this coastal Pinot, which is this Pinot Noir spritz. It's pretty good. It's medium body, fruit forward, Pinot Noir with sparkling water. I love my sparklings, but this is like a wine base. It's 6% alcohol, so I will not be getting tipsy on the podcast. But it's something different and something new that I got exposed to. So it's plant based, it's real fruit, which is really good. It's non GMO, it's gluten free. It's all the good little things. It's cute. Only 85 calories per can for people that count calories, but it's a really great drink. Grown and sexy. I think they sell it at, they definitely sell it online, but I know they sell it really at some major like fancy spots for people that like to get the sparkling wines and things like that. Spritz. It comes in a nice can, 12-ounce can, and it's really pretty. They have a white wine version and they have a red wine version. But I'm like mixing it up in my fridge now that it's pre-summer. It's not summer yet. We're still in spring, but I call this pre-summer time because like the month before. So in my mind, the month before summer is always pre-summer. Kind of like how I feel about, early September. It's like pre-fall. Like October to fall to me, in my mind, my mindset is always that fall starts after Labor Day, even though that's technically not correct. It's later in September. But mentally, after Labor Day, that's spring. I always consider every season having a finale before you kick off the next thing, if that makes sense. So for me, I always say that winter officially starts at the with the conclusion of Thanksgiving. So there's always a start holiday and a closing holiday, if that makes sense. So bear with me here, rock with me on this theory. It's just my own mental calendar. So I always, in my seasonal calendar is spring begins with the start of St. Patrick's Day. So when everybody starts going out with the St. Patrick's Day stuff, to me, that is the official beginning of spring. My mind, the ending of spring is the end of Memorial Day. The kickoff of summer is basically the transition when we transition out of Memorial Day weekend. That's when I believe summer starts in my head. The conclusion of summer for me is Labor Day weekend. That is the beginning of fall, and that is the end of summer. Then the kickoff for the kickoff for winter, the conclusion of fall is Thanksgiving. So once we put those cornucopias away and all of that stuff with with the pumpkins and all that stuff, we get into winter, I believe, then. And then, of course, winter concludes, to be honest, with Groundhog's Day for me. But, politically correct, the conclusion is when we start ushering in St. Patrick's Day, that is the end of winter for me. That's my mental clock on seasons, if that makes sense. Now, I know those are off, but mentally, that's when I start getting geared up. So I'm in pre-summer mode right now. I'm starting to bring out the short sleeves. Y'all starting to see me in some cute shorts. The flip-flops have come out. The bright colors. The nails are getting lighter. We're having fun a little bit more. We're definitely doing more pink. We're definitely doing more mint. We're playing with all types of grooves. And so it's been that kind of pre-summery vibe. The Lit Brothers, we went to Booker's this week to have dinner. It was nice. The new owners, we got to try the menu in its totality. We tried some cocktails. They got this Henny Punch that is nothing to play with, y'all, okay? Well, let me tell you about the new Booker's liquor situation. The cocktails at Booker's, and this is on 50th and Baltimore Avenue in West Philly. The cocktails at Booker's are so good and so strong. Okay, this Booker's Punch. Normally, when you get a punch, you think, oh, punch is like the cutest last thing on the menu. Oh no, baby, the Booker's Punch with that Henny in it is something not to play with. You only need, I mean, if you really a drinker, like if you like to go out and like have a good time, you only need two of those cocktails. If you are a light drinker, you need one, and that's all you need for the rest of the night, okay? But if you really like to, get it in, you only need two of those drinks. If you do three or four, you just trying to get thrown off. So we had about two and a half. But it was a good time. The food was incredible. They have new things on the menu. They've revamped a lot of things. They have oysters. They have no, they don't have oysters. They have mussels. The PEI mussels were just the bomb. I mean, bountiful, like so many of them. It was a great appetizer. We had the mussels. We had what else did we have? We had the wings. Oh, the wings were juicy and real wings, not the little wing dings. Okay, we had actual real wings. We had a variety of different things off the menu. Jamarcus had the oxtail and said the oxtail was great. I had the short rib, which was really good too. Very rich, very in depth. Um, Josh had the fried chicken. Still no bone, but it was still good. He still liked it. And George had the salmon, the Thai, it was like the Thai, like the mango, the spicy mango salmon, which was so good. Oh my God, that was good. So it was a very great time across the board. The food was great. Appetizer, the limoncello dessert was a classic. That's what I had for my dessert. Um, but I live. I got my whole life over there eating all the great treats and things they have to offer. What I also want to add about them that I think is really great that people oftentimes also underestimate is just the fact that you got people who, I don't know how to put it, like one of the things that people underestimate is like restaurants being open on Mondays. It's hard. A lot of people do not open restaurants on Monday. This place is open for like several hours at a time, and people sleep on that heavily. So I always tell people, don't a restaurant that can stay open for various hours on end, that's a very hard sell. So I was very impressed with the fact that they are able to keep their restaurant open 7 days a week, and they're doing lunch and brunch and dinner. And for a black owned restaurant to keep that kind of momentum going is a rare treat. So I was a big fan of that. Their seafood mac and cheese was great. I'm just looking at some of the things we ate off that menu. We ate a lot. We ate a lot. We had a time that night. We also went to Grove at Assembly. So Assembly Rooftop, you all probably saw those photos of us having a good time. So Assembly Rooftop is open. They've been open, but they are launching the Grove, which was there last year. It's a cool, like Tropicana type of themed rooftop experience. We're doing florals, we're doing short sleeve shirts, we're doing really cool, fun cocktails. It's very floral, it's very fun. Push up pops, everything. It was sexy. It was grown and sexy, and we had a lovely time. Even when it got a little chilly, they had the fireplace out, so I never really felt cold personally. But it was definitely a vibe, definitely a good experience. Really great seafood. The chef, who is so great, his name is Sunny. Oh my goodness, Sunny is a godsend. Sunny is the executive chef at Urban Farmer downstairs, but he also runs the food and kitchen up there at Assembly, and the bites are top tier and delicious. So we had a really great time there. I also love the Rittenhouse Rose Spring Festival. All the boys had something to do, so I went out with my bestie Amanda. We hit the town. It was so cute. We was in the VIP lounge. We had some ice cream sandwiches by Igloo, which I haven't had ice cream sandwich in years, but it was like the two cookies with the ice cream. It was really good. It was decadent. We drank some great stuff. They had some canned cocktails. That's the vibe right now, I suppose. Top Dog Cocktails. Shout out to my people over there, Top Dog Cocktails. They have these great canned cocktails in different flavors, and I saw them there, and I just was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. They had like a blood orange margarita in a can. They're locally based. They're really, really good. They had a peach mango tea, whiskey type of canned cocktail. Everything was good. Everything was dope. But we went around, shout out to Piazza. We went through the crowd. It was a very, very lively crowd. There was a pizza called Piata or Piatta, And that pizza was the bomb. They saw me there. They were Best of Philly honoree from 2021, Best Round Pizza. And I must say, their pizza is top tier. I was very like, okay, this is good. This is good pizza. But we didn't eat too much because we was already in the lounge. But we just walked around, saw a couple of spots, and it was lively and jumpy. It was a lot of people, but it's made its comeback because they was on a 2 year hiatus. So they came back in a splash to Rittenhouse Row folks. But it was a lot of liveliness going on. Saw my homegirl, my good Judy Laura. She was out and about. We were there, repping all the different brands and stuff we with Philly Mag. She just had this really great week. This really great story that she did, a personal essay that she talked about her experience with ADHD and Adderall and how there's been a national Adderall shortage. You can find that story on phillymag.com, but she talks a lot about her personal experience, and it was a very raw, real story. And a lot of people don't talk about the Adderall shortage and how it's impacting people because so many people don't actually share their experience with ADHD. But the story is in Be Well Philly. It is how America's Adderall shortage reflects a long broken system. So she says a shortage of drugs to treat ADHD has turned tracking medication down into a full-time job. She was on, for those who watch Good Day Philadelphia on Fox 29, she was on there with Alex Holly and Mike Jarek. If you saw that segment this week, talking the previous week, talking about just her experience. Like basically to find Adderall in Philadelphia and even the surrounding areas, even across this country, people literally are having to chase down certain pharmacies in different places to get it. And what does that mean for people who don't have the privilege or the ability to wherewithal to do it? Laura is very fortunate that she has a supportive, friends and family circle. Her husband is been very much by her side, Matt, who's a great guy who helped, is out there, going and getting in and all of that. And they also have a child. And so she's navigating that and she's making it, right? But it's a great story because it considers the implications of other people who may not be able to get Adderall as fast and as swiftly. So it's a very eye-opening piece. I learned a lot about her. I learned a lot about just people who are living with ADHD and just the struggles they go through. So I definitely encourage people to read it. It's very insightful and informative. And, it definitely has sparked a lot of conversations in my personal networks. Like when I shared the article, I didn't realize how many friends of mine had dealt with, getting access to Adderall and things of that nature. So it's an eye opener. And a lot of this has been sparked due to what's going on during the pandemic and also talks of recession and all that stuff. So it's a lot to learn, but I definitely encourage people to read it for sure. But yes, she was at Rittenhouse Row, spring festival, and it was nice. It was good. Amanda and I had a really good time. We just caught up and got some good sunshine, and we bumped into a couple of dusties there. When you go out and about in these streets, you just see anybody. People be from years ago, from your past. You just be like, damn, you still out here. So it was funny. It was almost funny because we saw people, and there was also some fans and people who came up to me and was super nice and stuff. It was just a really overall lively experience. And I don't really do day street festivals, but there was conditions. Of course, there was some little things that made me be like, okay, I'll come outside. Okay. But it was fun. Saw some people, and I'll talk about some people I ran into later in this segment about the mayoral race, because I do want to talk about some of that. My bestie, my good bestie, Jamarcus, of course, Jamarcus Henderson, one of the Lip brothers. He has a brand new website that I am obsessed with. For those of you who know, he's a recording artist outside of the work that he does from 9 to 5, and he is really killing it. He got a photo shoot. The page is flawless. You can check it out right now. It's called jamarcusonline.com. So it's jamarcusonline.com. And you can check out the website. You can listen to his music. You can stream his music. All of his music, his collection of all of his great songs and bops and things that you like. You can get it all on the website. You can check out all of the downloads. And you can also purchase songs and music. So support him. He's a Black queer artist, and you can get his albums. You can get Man at Arms right now for $10. You can get Atonement for $10. You can get his singles for $250 or $129. It's got some good stuff and downloads. He has a beautiful photo shoot, new photos that are never before seen until now. But he is really killing it. It's a great website and all his social media pages. So if you want to follow him on Instagram, if you want to check him out on social, he's also online. But definitely check out this website and really support the work that he's doing. Support local Black, queer, independent artists in music. I mean, there's so much trash mainstream music out right now. And someone was asking me that, it's like, well, what do you listen to? And I go to these local things like, they should be having Jamarcus Henderson here. I'm just saying, I'm gonna stand for my friend because I'm like I love his music, and I also just think, it's just we as everyday people, and this is my own thing about supporting friends, just supporting people's work. We spend so much money and energy and time supporting celebrities and famous people that we don't even have any personal connection with, any direct like communication with. They don't like our posts when we tag them. They don't shout us out. They don't share our shit on social media. See, I'm not talking about myself because I love to share love. When people give me love and show love, I engage with my followers and my fans. But a lot of people don't do that, right? A lot of folks that are out here don't do that. For me, I'm never going to pour as much energy into any of these celebrities before I do with my friends. So I'm going to always be even more pressed about my friends' success and achievements because that's what friends are for. So I encourage you all in your own lives. If you have friends that are artists, musicians, whatever it is, you should be standing for them more than you stand for some of these celebrities. Before you be posting another Beyonce post or a Fantasia post or shouting out anything these celebrities got going on, have you shared your friend's new website? Have you shared your friend's art? Have you used your platform to amplify the things your friends do? Now, my friends, they do that. When my book stuff come out, all of my stuff, my friends do that. I don't have any complaints about my friends. My friends do that. I don't even have to ask them. They just be like, oh shit, he got a post online, let me share it. That's what it's about. Do that for the people you know. Do that for your friends. Do that for the local people that you see and engage with, because you just don't know how much of a difference it makes. I will tell you personally, it makes a difference for me. I wouldn't be here at this level of my career had it not been for the various people throughout my career who has supported me. I think about Victoria. I think about Candace. I think about all these different people. Of course, Chris, and it's a bunch of Chris's out there, right? Chris Bartlett. I think about all these different people. Outside of my, just look at the stuff I do, listen to the stuff, spread the word, because that is how these things amplify. That is how Beyonce went from going to performing at a mall, okay, in Houston, to now doing world tours that's going to kick off this week, right? It starts somewhere, and we forget that sometimes. And so it's easy to support the mainstream, but support the local, support the people you know. Stand for them first, okay? That should be your first baseline of support. Okay, I've went to more Jamarcus Henderson performances than I went to any other celebrities' concerts. It's a fact. It's a fact. I've seen more Jamarcus live showcase shows than I've seen any other celebrities' performances. I've seen other people perform, but the number of times I've seen Jamarcus Henderson's performance has been longer. Okay, just saying. Support your faves. So yes, the website is jamarcusonline.com. Buy the album, stream the music, buy the singles, check out the website. If you know people out here that's booking real talent, choreography, actual songs, raw, independently produced music, please check him out. And, send messages and subscribe for news and updates and all those great things. So, beautiful website. Really excited for him. Shout out to the photographer. Oh my goodness, the photographer who did his photos is incredible as well. He's a Black local photographer in Philly who did all of this great work. His name is, the photographer is, I want to make sure I get his name right. The photographer is Gregory Wright. And if you like the photos you saw, he's very avant-garde and cool. He's a Philly-based photographer. He captures Black joy, foodways, and Black lifestyles. He's incredible. His Instagram is just_G Wright, he spells Wright, WRIGHT. His name is Gregory with one G, GREGORY, and Wright is WRIGHT. So it's just_G Wright. Um, and you can see all his great photography and work. So for people that's out here looking for local photographers to take pictures for their events, because y'all be asking me where these photographers, y'all always hiring the same old white girls and stuff. No shade, but just saying. There's other people out here to be looking at and hiring and working with. Just saying. So, other things that's been going on. I was in a Northeastern University documentary on council culture. Put in Northeastern, put in council culture. It's out there. A Northeastern student, a documentary student, filmmaker, did a whole series on did a whole documentary on council culture, and he included me heavily in that documentary. So you can definitely check that on YouTube. Um, I did an interview with Studio 2 for WHRY this week with Cherry Gregg. It was a conversation about my book, The Case for Council Culture. And while I was there, I bumped into James Imes, who is now a Tony nominated playwright. His new play, well, his play that won the Pulitzer Prize last year called Fat Ham, is on Broadway now, and it has multiple Tony nominations, including Best New Play. And as a producer, as a playwright, he's included in the credits. So he's now a Tony nominated playwright. Black, queer, lives in Philadelphia. He's in his early 40s. We both were fanning each other. We were both fanboying each other when we saw each other. He was also interviewed at the Studio 2 interview the same day I was, along with Sherelle Parker, interesting enough. But we didn't do it together. We did them in separate segments. But he was there, and it was I had never seen him in person. But I've seen his plays all the time. So he did Fairview. He directed Fairview at the Wilma a couple of months ago. Remember I told you about that show Fairview? He did that show. He's doing a bunch of other shows. He's working. He's also a professor at Villanova. But yeah, he's a great guy. It was nice to meet him in person. And I'm trying to see Fat Ham. Let's make that happen. I'm trying to see. It's a limited run. I'm trying to get in where I can fit in to see it. It's Tony nominated, and there's a good chance it could possibly win. It won the Pulitzer last year. It could potentially win, the big award this year. So we'll see. But nonetheless, I mean, just to see someone from Philadelphia, just go out here and thrive like that, it's just incredible. So super excited about that. Just random. Before I get into some other things, I have been obsessed with the sea bass at Park. That is so random. Yes, Park, the French restaurant in Rittenhouse. I had a lunch with someone this week, and I am trying to just mix up what I eat because I'm always going for a steak, and I'm like, I gotta mix it up, do something out the box. So I had the sea bass at Park, and I was obsessed with those beans. I don't know if anyone has ever had it. It's so good. And so it was so good that I had it for lunch on Friday at this meeting. And then I ordered it off of Caviar food app the next day for dinner on Saturday when I got back from Rittenhouse Row Festival. I have to control myself. It is like I'm so obsessed with this fish. I feel like this is what I do. I have these phases. Y'all know this. I have these things where I have these like cravings. And now I've just been having a wild like fish craving. And not like basic fried fish. I'm like, I want trout. I want branzino. I want, sea bass. But I want these like really, I don't know, fancy fishes. And I want the skin fried. And I don't know, it's a weird fetish I've been having. I don't know if it's a fetish, but a fish fetish. But it's something I've been like really having a real craving for lately. And so I think it started because earlier this week I had another meeting, which we'll talk about later. Maybe next week, maybe. Yeah, definitely next week. But I had dinner at Fiddler Club, and we were all doing fish, and they wanted to order the trout, but they ended up having the branzino, and I had that with duck, and it was just so good again. I don't know. I'm having a fish thing right now, and it's not that I'm having any kids, because people say if you dream of fish, the black parable is if you dream of fish, or fable, you dream of fish, you're gonna have a kid. Listen, I'm not dreaming of fish, but I'm definitely dreaming of eating this fish. So I don't know if that counts. But as Julie Roberts said in August Osage County, eat the fish, eat the fucking fish. If you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's random. But anyway, the fish is good and I love it. So other news, other things going on before we get into these hot topics. Book news. So this Thursday, me and Brett Mendel are getting together at the Free Library to discuss his book, Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting. We had a lunch at the Love. Again, I just did a lot of lunches lately out and about in Rittenhouse. What is up with the Rittenhouse lunch scene? But we was at the Love, and that's one of my favorite spots. And I had seafood then. I had the green goodness bowl with the salmon. What is with this fish obsession? I don't know what's going on. Does it mean something? I'm craving it. But it is, the salmon bowl was really great. It was delicious. It was a great, like, goodness bowl with the farro and everything. It was a very delicious lunch. Anyway, so we talked about this upcoming event, which is on Thursday. Not Thursday. It is on, I'm looking at my calendar, actually, because it's coming up very soon. Oh, it is Thursday, May 11th at 7:30 p.m. Yes, it is. Yes, it's Thursday, May 11th at 7:30 p.m. I will be in conversation with the great Brett Mendel. We'll be talking in depth about this great topic, Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting. A really great conversation about all of the different things that has been going on, for sure. And it's at the Parkway Central Library, 1901 Vine Street, between 19th and 20th Streets on the Parkway. So this event is really dope. We'll be attending this event, and we're going to be having a good time. So we'll be in conversation, basically around, civic activism, government reform. I'll also be talking about my book, The Case for Council Culture. So there's a lot to chew on and to get into and talk about. I'm looking forward to the great conversation, the great crowd. It's at 7:30 that evening. So if you want to come, it's free. It's pay what you wish. If you want to pay something, you don't. But it is open to the public. And I'll be signing copies of my book, The Case for Council Culture, which has been provided, of course, distribution by Uncle Bobby's Books, which is, of course, owned by Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. And also, they'll, of course, be having the copies of Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting. The book is out now. It's by Temple University Press. His book is out publicly now. But if you want to get our copies, both of our books and signings, come at 7:30. Be there, come up, show support, show love. It'll be great. Now, I'm also pleased to announce, which has already went on social media this week, I will officially have a date for you all for the Barnes & Noble's book signing, and this will just be a solo event. This will be me in discussion about my book, and this will be on Wednesday, May 24th. That will be at 6 p.m., and it'll be at the Barnes & Noble on 17th and Chestnut. This is where the old Forever 21 used to be. That Barnes & Noble store is now officially opened. I have not stepped foot in it yet. I feel like I want to do a walkthrough and check it out before I actually go. But apparently it's really upscale and nice. There's like an upstairs, downstairs, escalator, all that jazz. Well, we will be there. I will be in the building on that Wednesday, May 24th, and I'll be discussing my book, The Case for Council Culture, and signing copies. So for people who can't make the 11th event, come through on the 24th. Mark your calendar, save the date. I'll be signing copies and answering your questions and chatting more with you. And for those people who've already bought a book, buy another book for a friend or someone who has not read it yet. The sales have been doing great. I've been really excited with the consistency and the buzz and the love for all things Case for Council Culture. So I just want to thank you all for just rocking with me, because we're going to go back on a national tour in June. The national tour will kick off again in June. Dates and things will be coming very soon, but that's for the people that listen to the podcast outside of Philly. So I am going to get back on the road for sure and do some great things. So stay tuned for that. And then before I get into the podcast, I want to talk about an event I went to early this week that fortunately wasn't controversial. It wasn't that much controversy because I guess people didn't realize what happened. So next Sunday, there is an event called A Seat at the Table, which is going to be at Reserve from 12 to 4. This is a Black political event. I mean, apparently everybody's welcome, but people who are, it's like the big pre-weekend little event before the election, like almost like a voting primary day kickoff party, except it's not going to be the day of the kickoff party per se, but it's like a little weekend event. Now, I went to something like this last time. This is the event I went to. I don't know if y'all remember. This was probably like back in November of last year, when it was the guy from Bel Air was there. And that was the excitement about the general election because that was when Fetterman was, running for Senate, some big elections going on. So the group who do through that event, which was State Representative Morgan Cephas, she helped put this event together. She's coming back again to do this event, and she's collaborating with Keir Bradford Gray, who is a longtime respected attorney in Philadelphia. They're joining forces to throw this event again, but this time it's going to be louder, bigger, and brighter. It's going to be at Reserve, which is around Arch Street, 7th and Arch, around that area, right, not too far from the African American Museum in that area. It's like near Chinatown, Center City-esque, that kind of vibe. But it'll be there. So here's the thing. It was planning to go to that event. I am going to go to that event on that Sunday, not next Sunday. I'll be going to that event. So I got a link from someone who I saw the hyperlink and it said a seat at the table. I RSVP'd for the event, and then I got a notice that this event called A Seat at the Table was going to be happening on like a Wednesday or something. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. He must have moved the date up. And then I saw the venue and it was at Union Trust. And I was like, Union Trust? That's interesting because that's a really nice ass venue. So I said, okay, well, I got to change my schedule around to make it to the event. So I do change my schedule. I make it to the event. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. When I got there, okay, first of all, let me just, okay, several things to note. Okay, when I got there, I saw Alan Dom signs. It was an Alan Dom, mixer event. Now, let me be clear. I found out the logistics. The logistics was that they had the same name, and they didn't realize it, apparently. But it was mostly black. It was a bunch of black millennials that were there. There were some white people and stuff, but it was mostly black, young millennials. It was top shelf liquor bars upstairs and downstairs. They had Mr. DJ Hollywood. They had a bunch of major event curators, black curators. They had Eagles players. It was lit. It was a whole party. It was all free, food free, acrobatics. It was lit in there. It looked like a party that P. Diddy would throw. It was a lively party. And I was in there looking like, oh my goodness. I didn't know all these people were Dom supporters. I just didn't know. I don't know we was just there. I was like, oh snap. So I went to the event to just, I had my little journalism hat on for a minute. And I was just kind of talking to different people and getting a feel for what got them there and all of that. But I was quite surprised. It was a nice event. I did see Dom. He was very nice, very respectful, decent dude, no craziness. I saw a lot of the different people there, but it was a lot of familiar faces in there. I'm not gonna, put names out there and name drop, or people got their privacy. But it was a party. It was a lot of people. It was a lively party, and it just showed me that this race is not over. And I had got the link thinking I was going to the other seat at the table event, but I guess there's two different seats at the tables. But it was black though. It was very lively. Lots of buzz. They had a lot of photography. They had a lot of socials. It was a very lively party, I must say. But these are the things. Look, Dom brought an invisible check clearly, because I was in there how did you get the union? It's Dom. It's Alan Dom, for crying out loud. But I was like, this is a party. But no, it was a lot of people there. I was just talking to different voters and people, and some of the stuff I heard from people were just look, I was undecided. I'm not really feeling some of the other candidates, or, honestly, I know him. He's chill. I'd rather vote for him. That's what some of the things I was hearing from some of the people in that crowd. It was interesting. There was lawyers. There was consultants, business people that worked in the private sector, a couple of public sector folks. But it was a very interesting crowd. And, I wasn't going to put them on Front Street. It's nothing to be ashamed of per se, but, people go to these political events. It was not a fundraiser. That's the other thing too. It wasn't a fundraiser. They didn't ask people for money. They just threw this event, invited all these big name black folks. So it was quite the experience to observe in person. Look, I said, there go that silent majority, y'all. Y'all better watch out. Well, I don't know if Don will win, but shit. I mean, if he does, I will be able to say, I know how that happened. Because if he's having events like that every week and just bringing a bunch of different voters and folks out and doing that kind of show, ooh, nail biter. But we'll see. We'll see. But no, I wanted to say I seen it with my own eyes. And it's interesting because there wasn't much publicity about it. I mean, there were like some stuff on his Instagram, but it was very low key. And I want y'all to know, like, the crazy part was when I saw those photos on Instagram, I was like, this does not tell how massive that event was. It was. Mm. Ask some of your friends, was you at that Dom party last week? Because some of y'all got some friends you could call. Listen, me and my homegirl Amanda, I called her. I said, girl, I saw one of your old friends from back in the day. We was gagging because we was just like, what's up? What's up with the what's up? But it was a lot going on. The tea was hot. Um, you know, um, you know. So we'll see. Um, we'll see what it's giving. But So outside of that, the hot topics. Starting at the top, because I've been trying to keep up with certain things because there's a lot of stuff that went down this past week, as you all know. That every time I tried to sit down and focus, there was something else that fell on my desk. So I've been keeping up with some stuff that I feel like is worth the conversation. Some stuff I'm just like, I'm not talking about that. Like, I'll give you an example. I don't give a fuck about the King's coronation in England. Okay, I don't care. I don't have anything to say that's nice. Okay, long story short, Prince Harry showed up. He was given coach seats. He wasn't in VIP or first class or business class. He had coach seats. He took his ass on American Airlines to be with the people. Came back for lemon cake with his child, with his wife, Meghan Markle, who stayed the fuck home. And didn't really want to be there, clearly. So she stayed home in Cali. He did his thing. He came by. He wore his medals. The king had his crowning. The mistress is finding the queen. And that's pretty much what happened in Great Britain over the weekend. I don't care. Oh, yeah, they had a black choir. This African royalty decided to come in traditional wear to a celebration of colonialism, which was barbaric and weird as fuck. It was just a shit show, and no one cares. Boring. Next. Okay. So, other news. Tucker Carlson is racist, but we already knew this. There's a lot of comments right now about Tucker Carlson. There's a lot of drama with a lot of the messages that is now starting to expose all the stuff. And there's a lot of tea about a lot of his influence over the Christian right. Fox News makes racially offensive jokes about protesters. He's planning to now the tea is that he's ready to go to war to torch Fox News. He's mad about the situation. He made some messages about, this isn't how white men fight when talking about the January 6th stuff. There's accusations of harassment. He's been going down. But apparently, he is allegedly trying to go postal. That's what everyone is saying. That the scoop out there, according to Axios and other places, is that Tucker Carlson is ready to torch Fox News. To be honest, they both are trash, right? Fox News should have been let go of Tucker Carlson. Fox News should have been let go of itself. I don't know who wins in that situation because Tucker's reputation is complete trash at this point. It was already trash for me, but for even those people that held on a little bit for him, they're not even buying him. Now he's ready to go in on them, but I don't know how he benefits. I just don't get it. I mean, you see all this type of stuff. You look at Megyn Kelly. There's all types of stuff going on over there. It's people saying that, his team is preparing for war, quote unquote. He wants freedom. It's different people asking about, do they want to come at Fox? Allegedly he said, he's been saying to people, no, he wants to get this done quiet and clean. There are people from Trump world that's ready to come out for him. Tucker Carlson has a bunch of allies who really, are trying to attack Fox for basically trying to keep him on the quote unquote shelf. But apparently he knows where the bodies are buried. He's ready to start telling people what's going on. But these are all coming from sources connected to him that are not authorized to speak publicly. So, there's a lot going over there for Tucker. It's giving bitter. It's giving who gives a fuck. It's giving we already know they ain't shit. But I guess you feel like you're going to tell us something we don't already know. But like, let it go. But again, when you're petty and you're white and you're bitter, it's giving just that. So that's Tucker Carlson. I could spend time talking about how Clarence Thomas continues to be bought by, special interest groups, but boring. We already know that. But what I am interested in, and I thought was spicy, is that there has been these emails about, Herschel Walker child. Ooh, these emails that this came out in the Daily Beast. The Daily Beast has been on Herschel Walker's ass. This is the guy who ran for Senate, lost to Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock. But there has been emails that show that Herschel Walker, according to the Daily Beast, solicited hundreds of thousands of dollars for his own business from a billionaire donor. But the donor was believing that he was giving the money to Walker's campaign. But apparently there has been some confusion, and it seems to be problematic in the amount of $535,000. And this company, and this undisclosed company of his, is called HR Talent LLC. Legal experts say that the email suggests violations of federal fundraising rules. That's in the best possible circumstances. In the worst case, it could be an indication of more serious crimes such as wire fraud. He's been dealing with campaign finance rules since his campaign, which he started back in August of 2021, and had been schooled on it apparently. But he seems to have been dismissing the concerns that the money may have gone to the wrong place. Apparently he's been dodging his stuff. A spokesperson, said that Walker had refunded the money, but did not respond to questions about when that happened. So a spokesperson had claimed that, Walker had refunded the money. But the fact that this all had went down anyway is just hella sus and weird. But he stays in some shit. And it's just like, what is going on? But the whole story is in the Daily Beast, and it's very juicy. I mean, they got emails and they got it all. This is just some stellar reporting here. But, yeah, so apparently, yeah. He tried to have a short-lived reality competition show called Herschel's Raw Talent. But apparently none of that materialized. But bless his heart. We knew this day was going to come. We absolutely knew this day was going to come. And so here we are. Want to talk about this. I always struggle with these types of stories, partially because I just am at this place where these things happen and we have circular conversations, and it's just annoying and frustrating. But here we are, right? So in New York City, a black man who was afflicted with mental illness. His name is Jordan Neely, young, early 30s. He was a Michael Jackson impersonator on the New York subway trains. People have known him for years. He used to impersonate Michael Jackson, and he was lynched. I'm going to call it a lynching because it was done by a vigilante, a white man who apparently Jordan Neely was having an episode while on a train, and on the subway, this man, basically tries to apprehend him in a way where he grabs him by his neck, pins him down, and has him strangling for 15 minutes, and kills Neely, this black man afflicted with mental illness, kills this man in cold blood. They ruled it a homicide by strangulation. The police, people want this man to be held accountable for what he did. Eric Adams is disgusting. He's a piece of shit. That's the mayor of New York City. Any level of intrigue I had by whatever swagger he once had, um, he's just a horrible person. He's a monster. His statements that he's given around this issue has been passive, has been ridiculous. This blood is on his hands partially because of his treatment of mentally ill people, of homeless people, of poor people. His policies of just cleaning up these streets. When you dehumanize a group of people, then you allow for other people to basically extrajudiciously kill them. And that's what happens here, right? We see a disproportionate number of, young black people being killed by the police. Why is that? Because we live in a country and a society that makes it seem like it's acceptable to discard them and to just not consider them and to subhumanize them. And that's exactly what happened to Jordan Neely. Some have even said in some articles I read that Jordan Neely was already dead, in the sense of how society had already ignored him. The system does not provide enough resources for those who are dealing with mental health problems, nor does it consider the issues that are fed by it. This blood is on Mayor Eric Adams' hands. When you create a culture and a policy that allows people to have zero tolerance for those who are struggling with mental illness, with poverty, or with homelessness, when you create an environment, a culture that heightens up fear and makes people be afraid of one another, then you bolster the justification for these erratic, reckless ass, racially biased ass lynchings. And that's exactly what happened here. I don't care about any other excuse. This man was not out here physically assaulting and attacking people in that instant. And the fact that there are some reckless journalists out here, and I don't even want to call them journalists, but that they find it necessary to always point to someone's criminal past or whatever to justify this, it's unjustifiable. Like, you just can't walk out here and just kill people. Okay? You just can't just walk up and just kill people. And the fact that this man had his arm around this man's neck for 15 fucking minutes, right? How much of a threat could this man have posed if he was unarmed? How much of a threat could this man have posed in that instance? Like, it just did not justify it. But we are getting to a point where it just seems like, well, we're at that point now, or we never had not gotten on that point, where it just seems that if a black person is somewhat gives someone an annoyance at any type of level, it justifies them taking matters in their own hands and killing people. That type of vigilantism is disgusting. It's cruel. It's inhumane. It is not a form of civil society. And, for elected officials like Eric Adams to keep playing we don't know all the details. What all fucking details do we need to know that at the end of the day, nothing should have warranted that type of behavior? So, these are the moments when I'm reminded why I don't want to live in New York. I don't want to be in New York City. I mean, I get that folks that live there friends, but to my friends that be out here just always hyping up New York, it's shit like this. You guys, I mean, listen, we got a nearly $1 billion police budget in Philadelphia. Y'all got a $10 million police budget. I'm sorry, let me back up. We have a nearly $1 billion budget in Philadelphia. The NYPD in New York City has a $10 billion budget. $10 billion budget in policing. And these are the moments where, in a situation, this heightened fear. And I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial about Philadelphia, but I'm going to say this because it matters. I wish people would stop trying to act like the way that crime is happening in Philadelphia is being evenly dispersed. There is a disproportionate number of police officers in predominantly white neighborhoods like Rittenhouse Square, like, Drexel Hill, like Chestnut Hill, like, those areas. And what's interesting about those areas, right, is that while they have a faster police, response rate, they also have the least amount of crime and gun violence shootings and crimes happening in those areas. But the areas with the highest levels of crime and chronic crime and gun violence have the least amount of actual police response engagement and actually are in the most impoverished neighborhoods and areas of Philadelphia. There's a causation and correlation here that's fucked up. And what's even interesting is that anytime there is a news report of a shooting, you can expect it to either happen in Southwest, West Philly, or North Philadelphia, and sometimes South, right? And the crazy part about that is that people will hear this in Rittenhouse, clutch their pearls, and say, we have a gun violence problem, and I'm scared to walk outside my house. They're not coming for you. They've never come for you. They've never come for you. It's never been like that in Philadelphia in recent history. Okay? If one stabbing happens in Rittenhouse, then it becomes everybody has to stop everything. Crime is at an all-time risk. You all remember a year or so ago when there was that shooting incident that happened at outside of Budokan, and everyone was like, a shooting happened in Oak City. Oh my God. And it was like everything had to stop because there was one incident that rarely happens that took place outside of Budokan. And it was like everybody had to stop, drop, and roll. But how many shootings? How many shootings happen in West Philly late at night or Southwest or North Philly? How many incidents of shootings happen that we consistently hear about and nobody has to put out statements? There's none of this chronic, we got to stop everything moments. The only big shooting that happened at the Parkway was when a shot was fired in the air and no one got hurt. Miraculously, the bullet fell into a cop hat that just so happens to have a Bible verse in it. Okay. Like, this is the shit I'm talking about. Like, no one ever takes the moment to just acknowledge that the way that we talk about crime in Philadelphia is over-exaggerated. It's over-exaggerated in underwhelming communities where gun violence is underwhelming. The people that are the most heightened by this, the most loud about it, are in areas of people that don't actually experience this at the altitude and level that will require such a fear. It's baffling to me. Like, I live in University City, West Philadelphia, in the middle of that area, that intersection. I don't have this heightened fear about gun violence. I'm not afraid. I don't have this, oh my God, I gotta get home, and I'm not scared. I walk in my neighborhood, I use fucking common sense because let's be clear, shootings will happen in an urban environment. If you're in a major metropolitan city, there will be robbings, there will be carjackings, there will be shootings. But let's also be clear that they will never be at the heightened level that people will sometimes say. When you're talking about the highest incidence of shooting deaths in this country, they're not happening in Philadelphia at the late rate that they do. Actually, they're happening in areas like the Deep South and in the western parts. You go to fucking places in Mississippi and Wyoming, areas like that. You want to talk about actual gun shooting deaths? It's not happening in the areas you think they are. Even on a national level, when you look at the highest states with the highest amount of gun violence, Illinois and Pennsylvania is not in the top 10. Did you know that? But yet you'll hear these narratives, Chirac, Philadelphia, but we're not the ones having such heightened gun violence like that. And then, what's also interesting is that if you actually talk about the numbers, and let me be very clear, the numbers, if you actually look at who's dying and where they're dying at, most people who are running around, these white men, white women, these non-black folks that are really gassing up this shit, right? The majority of people that are getting shot by gun violence in Philadelphia are largely disproportionately black men, okay? Young black men are dying disproportionately than any other demographic in the city. And then following them are black women and some, of course, of our Latino brothers and sisters, right? But in reality, it's a certain target demographic, and most of them are dying in neighborhoods that most people who are talking the most about gun violence don't live in. It is an epidemic that is very specific. And people don't want to hear that. But when you look at the majority of the shooting deaths, a large, overwhelming number of them are black young men. That's just what it is. So to the white woman that's somewhere in Chestnut Hill asking for more police in her neighborhood because she's scared of gun violence, Becky, Karen, they're not coming for you. It's never been about you. You was never the one, baby. It was never you, sweetheart. The people who are getting impacted by this is mostly black men. And a lot of it is connected to drugs and gun violence and gangs and other things, right? And there are innocent bystanders as well. But a lot of this is connected to these types of intra-community issues that have nothing to do with the city at large. So when I hear people demand a gun violence plan, the gun violence plan needs to be concentrated in those areas where there is the most amount of violence. We know the numbers, they know the shooters, they know the areas, and they know what's being impacted. Fix the fucking poverty. Clean up these fucking neighborhoods. And I'm not talking about cleaning them up with bringing police in. Police are not cleaning in. You can't put a pig in a fucking mud bath and expect it to get better. Take the pigs out, clean up this shit, like beautify those neighborhoods, put some real economic investment that does not lead to gentrification. Treat the shit like Rittenhouse. Put some fucking parks there. Put some real rec centers there. Allow people to have street permits, to have festivals in the neighborhood. Like, that's what you gotta do to make people have value. This city does not give a fuck about poor black and brown neighborhoods. And then they get shocked when the gun violence happens. Where in your budget is you allocating money to clean up these neighborhoods? Because if the answer is increasing the police budget, then that's when you have lost me. And the gag is, okay, let's just entertain the policing situation. You're not even using the police officers properly. You're not even putting the police officers in the areas with the chronic crime. You're not actually using them properly. You would rather put a bunch of officers in Rittenhouse before you put a bunch of officers in areas where the crime, quote unquote, needs to be addressed. You're not even doing it right. Like, you're not even doing it right. You're not even using your resources correctly. You're arguing for more money for policing, but you're not actually putting the policing in those areas. I would encourage people to look at Rebecca Reinhardt's audit on the police department, that audit from the city controller's office that came out about a year ago about response rates, engagement, involvement. I highly recommend you Google it. There's plenty of articles that came out about it. But what you will find is that the police department is institutionally racist. It's systematically set up in Philadelphia. We already know this, but it's systematically set up currently that is providing services overwhelmingly to white and affluent neighborhoods above everybody else. So if you really want to entertain policing, you're throwing money in a crapshoot. You're pouring money into a department that's fixated on rich and affluent neighborhoods. And then people are like, well, the black neighborhoods, they're bad and they're this and that. Are they bad because of the fact that they're just innately, genetically bad, which is bullshit? Or are they bad because none of you all are investing in them like you're investing in these affluent white neighborhoods? That's a wrap for me. That's really the rap for me. And so when I hear people talk about Jordan Neely, when I hear people talk about New York, when I hear people talk about these deaths, this blood will forever be in the city's hands. It will be on these elected officials' hands because they do not invest the money and focus on the issues in the target areas. I hope that the next mayor of Philadelphia, right, with a new police commissioner, because Daniel Outlaw needs to get up out of here. Okay, Daniel Outlaw, go back to Portland, go back to Oakland, go back to where you came from. Philadelphia and what you've done when you tear gassed all those innocent black and brown people who was protesting against racial injustice. They were innocent. And you parroted a lie to say that these people were throwing stones and attacking the police. And y'all ran with that narrative. And then the New York Times had to expose you all for lying. And then you have to apologize for lying. And you tear gas innocent people. And it costed us taxpayers millions of dollars in a settlement that came out recently, one of the largest settlements around this type of behavior in the city. Millions of dollars of our taxpayers' dollars had to go pay to those victims and those citizens who were unfortunately injured by your reckless decisions and the calls that you've made with Mayor Kenney. You all should be stepping down. I've called for the resignation multiple times in the press. They should not be in any leadership position making decisions like that. And there's a lot of cowardice from some of these mayoral candidates and from these elected officials in the city that have allowed these people to sit up in power. It's disgusting. But see, this is why I can't run for office, because see, I'm not built for it, because I would just tell everybody they could go fuck off. And they should. But speaking of other news, the PA Fairness Act, which is basically House Bill 300, for the first time in 22 years, moved out of the House. It moved out the House and now it's going to the Senate. It passed. It's a bill banning discrimination against LGBTQI individuals in employment, housing, and all other public accommodations. The vote was 102 to 98. 2 Republicans said yes. one Democrat said no. This is 22 years in the making, and I want to talk about this a little bit. So there are so many people in Philadelphia, and I want y'all to listen to this. For those people who got friends that say some of this homophobic, transphobic rhetoric, a lot of people have said things like, I don't know why these gay people just act like they ain't got all the rights. Y'all got all the rights. Y'all got all the rights. Why y'all keep acting like y'all discriminated against? So let me explain you. Let me educate you, okay? So when Obama and the Democrats pushed and the Supreme Court agreed in 2015 to do marriage equality, which was the law of the land. Marriage equality was us getting the right to be able to get married. Married, that was it. So I'm legally able, based on the United States Supreme Court, I'm allowed to get married. And I did. I got married in 2021, right? So when marriage equality became the law of the land, okay, that's it. But what people did not know is we have not had any federal protections against LGBTQIA discrimination in employment, the workforce, which is employment, but also housing and other public accommodations, okay? So what that means is that in certain states, there are states that completely do not protect LGBTQ people from massive discrimination. And within the states, there are some municipalities and cities that provide those protections, but not every city within the state. So now what happens is there has to be a city by city or municipality by municipality decision, but that jurisdiction does not hold into other jurisdictions across Pennsylvania or other places. So there are some people that have statewide protections. And so if you have statewide protections, that means that everybody that live in that state has to abide by that across the city, across the state, across any county. But then you got areas that don't have statewide protections. So if you don't have a statewide protection, that means that your city has to get it done. And if your city doesn't get it done, then you're fucked, okay? So let me explain this in the most cleanest way possible for some of the dumbasses in 2023 that still want to act like LGBTQ people are over-exaggerating when we say we experience discrimination. Let me explain this in the best way I can. So let's say, for example, that I did not live in a Democratic city. Let's say I did not live in a progressive city like Philadelphia, right? Let's say I lived outside of Philadelphia in some random ass county. You know, I didn't live in Philadelphia County. And legally, I got married, right? I got married. And they said, okay, you know, you're married. That's legal. I can't get in trouble by my job. I can't get in trouble for being married. So I got married on Saturday, let's say. But Monday, I come to work and I show a picture, okay, of myself with my husband. That job potentially could fire me. They could say, yo, no homo. We don't get down with that lifestyle. You're going to have to pack yourself up and leave. Or let's say that we got married and I went to an apartment. I went to look for a house. And the realtor sees me holding my husband's hand with our wedding ring on. He can say, you know what? I don't feel comfortable selling to you homosexuals. Or let's say, for example, I go to a bakery and I want to get a wedding cake, anniversary cake for my husband and I to get a anniversary cake to celebrate. And it says, you know, Ernest and Mr. Johnson or whatever. They see that on the cake description. They can say, you know what? I don't want to sell you this cake. We don't sell cakes to gay men. Right now, Pennsylvania and parts of Pennsylvania, all of the things I just told you could happen. It cannot happen in Philadelphia because Philadelphia has a fair ordinance practice, right? They have a policy, an ordinance. They have the Fair Practice Ordinance, which basically includes LGBTQ discrimination as something, anti-discrimination within that policy. So in Philadelphia, you could not do that shit in Philly. But if you take your ass out somewhere in Allegheny County or some other parts of Philadelphia or outside of Allegheny County or some of these redwoods, right? What I just said to you was still a reality. And the reason why it's still a reality is because those individual municipalities and counties do not have LGBTQ protections. They have Republican-ran, you know, city councils and mayors, and those people do not give a fuck about people like myself. The other issue is that because we don't have statewide protections, if we had a statewide protection, then basically that would prohibit that kind of discrimination from happening across the entire Commonwealth. So it doesn't matter where I relocate and live, I will still have those protections. Right now, we don't have the statewide protections. So I want to say back in 2001, the PA Fairness Act was first introduced. And this act was meant to create statewide protections for LGBTQI people in Pennsylvania. So that means that no matter where you are in Pennsylvania, you will be protected. Why do you think there's a lot of people, gay people, that live in cities like Houston or Chicago or New York City or LA? Because those are the areas that actually have municipal protections for us. But not every of those states, like Texas, like Illinois, I don't think, like Pennsylvania, they don't have protections for us statewide. And the crazy part is that the states that do have those protections, right, you would have to stay in that state. You can't relocate. Because if you relocate to a state that don't have those protections, you don't know what's going to happen to you. Then you have to pick which city you want to live in. It's so fucking complicated. And so right now, we don't have any federal protections. There's an act right now, law, that is called the Equality Act. The Equality Act is a federal act that's been introduced in Congress. If Congress and the Senate passed it, this would end all of this state municipality shit. It would just be a federal mandate across all states in the United States to follow it. It'll be a national law. Unfortunately, we don't have enough interest there to move it forward. So now you have to fight states to do it individually, or else we're fucked. So right now, all I have as a black gay man in Pennsylvania, I have to choose which cities I live in. I can't do business everywhere because somebody might discriminate, or they might say, I don't want your contract, or they might Google me and say, I don't want to work with you. So this shit is serious. This shit is real. And what happened in Harrisburg this past week is a milestone, a big deal. Governor Josh Shapiro, who's a Democrat, says that this is a priority to him. We'll see what happens in the Senate. The Republicans control the Senate and the State House, and in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania senators, not the United States senators, but the Pennsylvania senators on the state level control. But I'm just hoping that we can push through. Maybe a Republican senator might say, you know what, fuck it, who cares? Like, we just need a couple of votes to get us to the finish line. But if we get there and we pass this, we'll, for the first time in fucking history in Pennsylvania, have statewide Commonwealth protections for LGBTQI people. Why do I know this a lot? Because back in 2015, I was the vice chair of an organization called Equality Pennsylvania. It was one of the biggest C4s, 501c3s, advocacy organizations around LGBTQ protections across Pennsylvania. It no longer is around, but at the time I was a part of it. And I was the vice president of advocacy on the C4. And I went across the state of Pennsylvania, across all types of municipalities and counties, and interviewed people and talked to people and was trying to advocate to get a bill like the PA Fairness Act to pass. It took years of advocacy and education. And to be honest, it's still more education needs to be done. But I remember those early years. And I think that at the time, people was banking on Hillary to get elected because they wanted Katie McGinty to get elected when she ran for Senate. And they was trying to do a Democratic wave, and it didn't work. It just did not work. Trump country was here, and it just impacted everything that happened. So to see the bill get passed now, is a milestone. But so many people over the past 22 years, including myself and including so many others who are no longer with us, pushed for this to happen, this day to happen. So now we're out the House. The Senate is now going to look into it. We're going to see what Governor Shapiro is on it. But it's time. It's time. It's time. And I just don't want to hear no more bullshit from people about this, because this is something that's I just feel like it's so important, so necessary. We just do not understand. And let me tell you something, as a black queer person in this, don't think for 5 seconds that a lot of the racist, bigoted white people in Pennsylvania that are against the Fairness Act, that they're not specifically trying to create an excuse to discriminate against me for my race. I have heard experiences from black and brown queer people across Pennsylvania where there's been situations and incidents where they have basically would go out and they would say, hey, some of these people would not discriminate or come at white gay men the same way they was coming at them. And so they felt like they were being racially targeted, but because they were out and their sexual orientation was public, the justification to discriminate them based on their sexual orientation was enough grounds for them to lose the job, even though they possibly could have lost the job more so because of their race more than their sexual orientation. I can't tell you so many private stories I heard of individuals who was in schools in certain areas where there was white gay men that were out in certain spaces, but they weren't being permitted in by certain people for housing and opportunities because of the fact that they were black. But they couldn't, because we do have civil rights for race, right? The Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects gender discrimination and racial discrimination, but it does not include sexual orientation, right? And because of that, right, that there was this double entendre or this double fuckery that the bigot could say, real rap, I don't really care if the person's gay, but if you're black and you're gay, I really don't want black people. So they really hated you more on your race than your sexual orientation, but they would use the sexual orientation as a way to discriminate. Isn't that fucked up? But that's what's happening. That's what happens when you don't create statewide. That's what happens when you allow comedians like Dave Chappelle to run around with this false narrative that gay people got all these rights that y'all straight people somehow don't have. The straights will always have more rights currently. Like, there's no equality here. Like, this talk about, oh, y'all got it better than us and y'all living better and y'all just, that's bullshit. Legislative-wise, politically, is bullshit. When you're looking at the level of homeless LGBTQ youth, there are more homeless LGBTQ youth than straight youth disproportionately. And when you get into the numbers of racial, you already know it's disproportionately black and brown. So miss me with the narratives on financial equity and access, access to degrees, access to workforce. Those numbers show a very different type of conversation. Healthcare, let's not even talk about it. But people like to push this fake ass narrative that somehow LGBTQIA people are the privileged model minorities above everybody else. It's not true. It's just not true. And I need you motherfuckers to know what intersectionality is. Okay, and I'm not here to educate you on that. Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, Google her, look her up, read about critical race theory, read about intersectionality, and start running with the facts rather than your damn homophobic theoretical bullshit that's rooted in conspiracy. Enough. All right. 76ers arena. You all have asked me about the 76ers arena. You know, I had a piece that came out last week for Philadelphia Magazine where I really broke down and discussed the situation that was happening at play with that whole debacle. After many conversations I've had with elected officials, with people on both sides of the issue around Chinatown, those who support it, who don't, you all know I've been following it. I made in my mind that, quite frankly, I'm not for the 76ers arena, so this full disclosure there. However, my logic is that let's just say people really want to talk about a process. The 76ers should take their own advice and actually trust the process. Right now, there's no real process. You know, they've only had one public community meeting in the community around this. David Gold was there. It was a shit show. It was a hot ass mess. People was not feeling the conversation. But outside of that all of the hopscotching around these issues, I'm just not here for it. I just think that there's a rush, and it seems like Adelman and those billionaires who want to put this together, they want to rush this vote in June. Nah, we got to cut this out. I do not support the notion that the current city council, with all of its vacancies and people retiring and leaving, should be in charge of making this decision that the next mayor and the new city council should deal with. The new city council and the new Philadelphia mayor should be addressing this next year. And if it's worth it to the 76ers people by then they should wait. But to try to force it without a public hearing, without letting city council interrogate more, I think it's problematic. And I don't give a fuck about no councilman prerogative, because they're like, well, Squilla makes the call. Well, Squilla has to see what everybody else thinks, because at the end of the day, y'all know that this new city council coming in is not going to give a fuck about councilman prerogative as much if there's going to be something that's going to impact their electability in the next 4 years. Okay, these years go by fast. Look at Biden. Biden's running for president again. He's announced his re-election already, right? I just feel like, damn, we already talking about 2024. I just feel like I haven't really got the full taste of Biden's presidency. It kind of just felt like he just kind of been around. I mean, he's done some things. I'm not taking that from him, but it just kind of feels like by the time I'm finally warming up to the presidency, but maybe because there hasn't been that much drama, But these 4 years have went by really, really fast. Are we getting close to like the fact that next year we're going to be talking about elections and presidents? Like what? So it's going to be an interesting period of time, for sure. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. So y'all want me to talk about this, and I just I was trying not to, but whatever, listener's choice, viewer's choice, listener's choice. Um, I want to tell y'all about this listener's choice. So there's been conversation about the Roots Picnic, and they said, we heard you. And this is what they said. I'm going to read the statement as fast as I can. Roots Picnic, we heard you. At the Roots Picnic, we strive to provide a best-in-class festival for the city of Philadelphia and the world. And while we understand that our 2022 festival brought incredible music and joy to close to 60,000 people, there were some things that we could have and should have done better. So firstly, thank you for being loyal fans. And as loyal fans, we wanted to let you know that we heard your concerns and have revamped the Roots Picnic Festival experience to make sure we go above and beyond for every person in attendance. We went back to the drawing board with our food vendors and created a brand new Roots Picnic food court area dedicated to providing amazing food for the 2-day festival experience. We have reached out and selected and secured a diverse selection of food options that include vegan and plant-based options. We have also increased the amount of food and water vendors to reduce the wait times in line, because who wants to wait long for food with the lineup this year? We've also ensured that we will have a variety of Black-owned vendors that represent the city and culture of Philadelphia. We have hired a completely new audio and production team dedicated to making sure all of our artists sound great and to make sure they hit the stage on time. For our VIP silver and gold customers, we have increased the amount of seating so you will be sure to have an opportunity to enjoy the show from a comfortable viewing area. We have also made the footprint larger to add more dedicated food and beverage vendors. Overall, we believe this year's picnic will be the best one ever, and it's because of how much we care about our fans, and quite honestly, how much our fans care about holding us accountable. We can't do this without each other, each and every one of you. Thank you. So that was their trash ass statement. And I'm going to tell you why it's their trash ass statement. That's cool if you want to have this little get together, this little conversation about what you're doing and all that jazz. But let me tell you the problem that I have overall with this discussion is that it actually ignores the reality of what's happening. This event will be taking place June 2nd and June 4th. I will not be going, of course, because at the end of the day, I'm not here for Dave Chappelle. I'm not here for all of these problematic trash ass talents. Okay. Charlemagne the God, DJ Academics, Talib Kweli. Like, is these the type of people that you want me to? No, not happening. So I'm not a fan, and I can't get behind this. Transphobia, homophobia, misogynoir. I mean, you're giving a platform to these men who have done some really fucked up things to some incredible Black women, and also trans people and innocent people. And I just cannot support anything that Charlemagne the God has going on, and especially Dave Chappelle now. So if that's called cancel culture, then that's exactly what it is. I am personally canceling the Roots Picnic. But to the people that go in complicity, I want you to feel like a piece of shit. I'm going to be very honest with you. I know there are people that I am in what they call that acquaintanceship with that's going to go, and I just want you to feel like a piece of shit. I'm just going to be honest. You should feel like a piece of shit for giving your money to an event like that and supporting them right now. And the fact that they put out that statement and they don't even address the real elephant in the room to simply talk about just the economics around food and vendors. Yeah, that was a real reason why a lot of people didn't want to go to Roots. Ticket sales must be slow right now, because the fact that they even have to say that is because people are just like, I don't even know. And tickets are not moving. Get rid of those homophobes and transphobes and we can have a conversation. They don't want to do that. And I don't think they realize that that might be playing a partial role, not a total role, into why people are probably not interested in going. So it's like less than a month now before this takes off. This is going to be like May 3rd to 5th or 4th to 5th or whatever. It's definitely going to be a month. It's good luck. I'm not going. I'm not excited. I don't. This podcast does not endorse or support any of the Roots picnic activities, and you can go back and run and tell that to anybody who's a part of it. Because at this end of the day, I am tired as a queer person of having to compromise myself, that I can't bring my full self in these spaces, that these spaces are often met with hostility and toxicity. And the fact that this is happening during Pride Month is fucking disgraceful. So Black Music Month, right? This is a month, the summer. You're going to bring in Pride Month with this fucking idiot. And I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. I could be wrong. We'll see. But watch and see what is said at that damn stage. Who's going to get disrespected at that stage? And what I don't want is to see all these viral videos of people being like, oh my God, Dave Chappelle said that. I can't believe this person made that joke. You know it's going to happen. And I don't want to hear anything from you so-called allies that's going to sit up there and going to snicker and watch and hide your head and then get on Facebook and say it. Because here's the thing. We as Black and brown people, specifically us, because this picnic is arguably for us, the fact that we as a collective, okay, that if this was someone bringing some racist comedian up there and making N-word jokes, we would be judging our white peers who would be complicit in going to that. Well, what makes you any different right now that you hear and see people of my experience and you're like, okay, whatever. The same complicity around Chris Brown, the R. Kellys of the world. You all don't give a fuck until it comes to your door. Disgusting. So if you go to the Roots picnic, you can't carve it out no way. You know what you're putting your money in. Those overpriced tickets and that badass service is going to fund the pockets and coffers of people like Dave Chappelle, Talib Kweli, Charlamagne the God, DJ academics, people who have gaslighted people that have fucking taunted and harassed Black women. You're fucking disgusting. You don't have no respect. And I don't care about all the pick-me's that are going, okay? And all the pick-me's, the self-hating, internalized misogynists and homophobes that are out here co-signing this shit. We don't care. We don't care. So, that's that on that. Now, moving along. I don't know what is going on with the Helen Gim campaign team before I get into this other stuff. But the Helen Gim campaign team, I don't think they done lost their goddamn mind. They done sent out cease and desist letters to all of the TV stations that have ran that Super PAC ad that has now been exposed of being led by Jeffrey Yass, that billionaire, that conservative billionaire who is funded not only just Republicans, but also some Democrats. He's got a super PAC that is leading the charge, going against Helen Gim and calling her out about those pharmaceutical speculations and allegations, right? So here's the thing about that situation. What's come out lately is the fact that Josh Koppelman, who is the board chairman of the Philadelphia Inquirer, interesting enough, the Philadelphia Inquirer, a reporter, Anna Orso, wrote a story about that super PAC and about the details about who funded it. And it showed that the board chairman of the Philadelphia Inquirer, Josh Koppelman, who is a big, venture capitalist, he gave $50,000 to that PAC. Messy. And so he's been called out on social media about it. He's tried to put out a statement, but he said a bunch of nothing, a word salad. And I don't have no issues with Josh Koppelman personally, but it just is very interesting that they're saying, the Helen Gim folks, are trying to create a conspiracy and say the media is against them. Well, some of their supporters went a little tad too far. Talked about the Inquirer editorial board, said, named the Philadelphia Citizen, said, Philly Mag celebrity journalist. They didn't name my name, but clearly I'm the only journalist covering it. And they just said, these people are up against Helen and she's fighting against the status quo. And it said that they were status quo. Let me tell your ass something. I am not a fucking status quo. If you think I'm the status quo, you've been listening to the wrong podcast, okay? This podcast has gotten over 50,000 downloads. Okay, last month's numbers came in, over 50,000 downloads last month. The highest monthly listens we've ever had, 50,000. This is independently Black queer ran podcast and content. If you ever in your natural born life ever will think putting my name, Ernest Owens, alongside status quo, you don't know who the fuck you're talking about. And I try not to get annoyed, but it's just sometimes when you see people go all the way left, okay? If you want to call me a bougie bitch, whatever. But you know what? I earned that shit though, right? Right? Because it's funny how, Helen Gim can wear Jimmy Choos and Louboutins and be pretty much a millionaire and have a husband with pharmaceutical money, shit funding their lifestyle, but she's not called any of the things that I'm called, and I'm somebody that's just simply covering the shit. But that's the anti-blackness that we face, right? That somehow the person that was getting money from Johnny Doc all these years, that ain't status quo establishment, but the brother who's calling her out for her fucked up policies, oh, that's status quo. Y'all better check yourselves before you try to check me. And it's getting to the point where it's getting hella problematic. It's been hella problematic, but the Helen Gim camp, these people are disgusting. The way that they have come at the press specifically is wild. Now, I get it, right? That is a fair critique, to critique Josh Koppelman for putting that money in that PAC as the board chairman of the Philadelphia Inquirer. The optics don't look good. I get it. Critique it. But don't you, for starters, critique that staff that's doing that reporting. Because there are Black and brown journalists that are at the Inquirer that are covering this, and they're independently making their own stories. The editorial board that is there is literally running that independently. Their thoughts about Helen Gim and their critiques about Helen Gim are their own, okay? It's not being fueled by no conspiracy theory. And let me be very clear about me. My opinions about Helen Gim has been consistent for years. So we're not going to act like I woke up one day and decided to go after Helen all of a sudden. I've been one of the few people that have consistently criticized and questioned some of the motives that she's made. Okay? And this narrative that Helen Gim is creating, because I'm going to be very frank about this, is a fucking lie. Helen Gim was a media darling for the nearly 8 years she served in city council. She always got coverage. They always wrote reviews. You could go and look at even at Philadelphia Magazine. There had been long form articles that really gave her a positive light. There's been countless times she's been considered the most powerful politician in Philadelphia. I mean, she's been praised. Okay? So this lie that she's now putting out, like, oh, the media is attacking me and they don't like me for my progressive policies. We're the reason why you got elected. It was the media that praised her and I think inflated her ego. You think about Larry Krasner, oh my God. Larry Krasner was born because of the media. The same way that the media drove up people like Barack Obama, right? Rightfully so, right? The way the media really covered and overcovered AOC. These people literally got the buzz and the attention because of media. There was never a camera or a mic that Helen Gim never was afraid to go on, unless she was talking to me, because she was dodging me left and right over the years, but that's another story for another day. She loves the camera, she loved the press, and she was always talking to people. And you know what's funny? She got more press than some of her colleagues. And her colleagues said that she would take credit for some of the shit that they did. Like, please, do not give me sudden amnesia. Do not sit up here and try to rewrite history. Helen Gim was consistently getting good press and positive press for nearly 8 years. But the problem with Helen Gim is that she doesn't understand that running for city council at large is different than running for mayor. When you run for city council at large, you don't have a target on your back as much because there's so many people running in a race that people just take your talking points. But when you run for mayor, it's only one mayor seat. There's not countless, but there's several city council at large seats. But there's only a small few number of actual mayor seats. There's only one mayoral seat. There can only be one mayor of a city. So when you are running, it gets personal. It gets a little bit more competitive. It definitely is more congested. The focal point is sharper, and people are going to look into you in a different way than before. Think about Hillary Clinton. When Hillary Clinton ran for U.S. Senate, the media embraced that. They easily took her to U.S. Senate. But when she ran for president, those were different types of conversations. And that's the difference here. And so I don't know if her team is politically illiterate or they're just trying to peddle and push disinformation. But the narrative of the media has turned against Helen, It's bullshit. I think what has happened is that because they have underreported on a lot of the flaws pertaining to Helen Gim for nearly 8 years, she is now on defense mode because now she's got to address things that she should have been addressed. When the 2019 Pharma bill happened, right? There was some coverage in there. There was some critique back then. Like there was. But the level at which I've seen the media give other people fuck up and fumble, it was a moment and it kind of went away. But now, because the opioid epidemic has really skyrocketed and has really killed a lot of beloved people and has really been out of control in the city, it is relevant to talk about. And it is something to be said. And the narrative that they're saying is not really fully telling the truth. The truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, Helen Gim's lifestyle during that time was influenced by the money that was procured by her husband working at AmerisourceBergen. Yes, she had a salary that she earned at city council, but they were married. And when you're married, your affiliations to your partner and to you is connected. Look at if you don't think Jenny Thomas and Clarence Thomas are on the same fucking plane, I don't want to talk to you. Get off the call. If you don't think Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are on the same plane and wavelength, get the fuck off this podcast. If you don't think that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are on the same wavelength, get the fuck off the podcast. My husband and I are on the same wavelength. He may not express his politics as loudly as I do, but we have the same level of ethos and pathos about these types of issues. And so if you think that for 5 seconds I'm supposed to believe that Helen is living on a different planet of thought than her husband, who was this pharmaceutical exec that was at AmerisourceBergen, that was getting six-figure salaries from them, if you do not want me to believe that that was connected, then I'm sorry. That's bullshit. She knew. She knew. And this whole, she went to the ethics board. My whole thing is, the fact that you had to go to the ethics board to even look into it should have been a red flag for you not to even get involved. And yes, the ethics board they said to her that they didn't feel like it was a conflict of interest. But sometimes the ethics board does not always get it right. And sometimes common sense and public opinion also has a way. And so at the end of the day, you can tell me all that the ethics board didn't think it was a conflict of interest. It still appears to be such. And I just think sometimes people like to lean on these institutions that they also keep talking about they're going to dismantle. Which one is it? Which one? Pick one. Because you can't talk about corruption and call out these other people around their conflicts and their things. Like you're trying to say that David Koppelman, right, is in a conflict of interest for giving money to Jeffrey Yaz's PAC that is making those attack ads while sitting on the Inquirer board. Am I in disagreement with that? Not necessarily. I don't disagree with that. But if you can think that connection with him being on the board chair of the Inquirer, if you think that there's a conflict of interest there, how do you not see a conflict of interest that your husband at that time was working for AmerisourceBergen while that bill was trying to hold them accountable and you voted against it? How do you not see that? Come on. So I just cannot with her. But what I also am going to be very transparent about is that during this process, I have experienced a level of what I perceive to be intimidation from her campaign team. You know, they have not liked the things that I've said publicly about Helen Gim and what I've said about the issues in her campaign. And so I want to be very clear about some of the things that have happened to me specifically. For starters, I just want to say that a lot of the shots that the Helen Gim supporters and others have been doing towards local journalists in general has been very disingenuous, okay? A lot of people will not speak up about this because they have faced intimidation, but I'm going to always speak up. I think everything, for the most part, with the exception of the situation with the Inquirer leadership situation with Jeffrey Yaz, that thing is an exception to what I'm discussing. But I'm going to talk about everything else that's been fair game. Columnists and opinion writers have the right to an opinion that's not favorable to any political candidate. And people trying to mask these things in some media conspiracy is misleading and problematic, period. I want to be very clear. My entire journalism career, I've only written 2 op-eds solely about Helen Gim. In 2019, I wrote one critiquing the fact that they were trying to compare it to being Philly's AOC. And then I wrote one earlier this year, y'all. You know, the one about her going to the Union League after previously protesting it. Those are the only two published pieces I've written about Helen Gimp. The only ones that were actual in publications, okay? But unlike the team, right, and to be very clear, and I want to make a comparison real quick because I think that this is important. Throughout this mayoral cycle, I have written the most published pieces about Jeff Brown. Okay, Jeff Brown has definitely gotten more critique from me in my op-eds and my reporting because Jeff Brown has also done a lot of things that is uncanny and also unprecedented for a mayoral candidate. So when people say fair and equal coverage, you can't equivocate these things because if a person is not doing anything, a person's not doing anything. Like, for example, James DeLeon is not in controversy left and right. I can't write 5 stories about James DeLeon if James DeLeon ain't doing shit. But I could write 5 stories about Jeff Brown because he is a leading candidate and he's also doing a lot of dumb shit. So, like, this whole idea about this fair and balance, I can't make up shit on my ass about another candidate if another candidate's not doing anything. And so this notion of this team is being completely irresponsible and reckless. So for every time there's an article about Helen Gimp doing something controversial, you're expecting me to find some dirt or something on another candidate that may not exist? Yeah, it doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. And so to be fair, what I will say about Jeff Brown's camp, when I've written any stories about Jeff Brown's camp or about him, they give me a statement. They don't publicly harass me. They've never, done any funny business. It's just simply they respond to whatever my question is. I post their statement. I move the fuck forward. That's how this works. Journalists do the reporting. They ask the questions. You give them the answers. If there is something that you think is wrong or misleading or whatever, you contact the reporter directly. You get to the bottom of it. If it's independent media, you go directly to the source. But unlike Helen Gimp's team, I've been contacted by several journalists who directly told me that they've been contacted about my particular tweets from those people specifically. And this situation got to the point where I had to contact these people directly. So Brendan McPhillips, who used to work on John Fetterman's campaign, which we had a very different relationship then. I covered John Fetterman and took a lot of heat from the K-Hive and a lot of moderates because they frame me as, he's a radical progressive. He's a this, he's that. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times the moderates talked about me being, anti-establishment. Now the Helen Gimp people is like, oh my God, you're too status quo. Which one the fuck is it? Hilarious. And that is journalism to me. Is that the fact is you can't control what people's voice is. I should talk about this more. So I contacted Brendan McPhillips and Maggie Hart. Maggie Hart is doing the comms team for Helen Gimp's campaign. I DM'd them a couple of weeks ago when this stuff was taken off. And I said, good morning, Maggie and Brendan. Just an FYI, if there's any questions you have about my tweets, feel free to contact me directly, not any editor I work with. Unless there's a published story in connection to my tweets, it's highly inappropriate in my profession to override contact with the writer and go to any editor that's not related to the material. In some cases, it can be viewed as a form of intimidation. Both of you have had no issue reaching out to me in the past. Please consider doing the same moving forward. Best, Ernest Owens. That's how you do it. Because I was like, why y'all going to different people that I'm working with? How come y'all contacting my other writers and folks that are members of my PABJ family? That type of behavior is unacceptable. Trash talking me, bad mouthing me to certain people. You don't think that shit gonna come back to me? Like, that's some bullshit. So they were doing that kind of stuff. And honestly, this type of behavior is undemocratic. It's really hard for me to not imagine what does a Gimp for mayor situation looks like. Because hearing this type of stuff is really saying something, And this is overall some of the issues that they've been having. There's been conversations. They were mad at Billy Penn for running a story talking about how they had cult-like followers. The funny thing is that somebody who was a big supporter of them literally said that the support for Helen Gim was cult-like. And they got mad because other candidates ran with that rhetoric, right? And said, oh my goodness, right? So it's a lot of bullshit that is happening. And this is something that is just like people are just out here so desperate. And I get it, right? Helen Gim's team is scared. They're scared. We are about to be a week away from this goddamn election. And I can't tell you how much I cannot wait for this election to be over. I really cannot wait for it to be over, y'all. When I tell you, I am so ready for these people to just hurry up and lose. Whoever wins is going to win. But God damn it, this is how I felt last primary. That like at some point, you just want people to just shut the fuck up and let the voters vote. Because all these forums and panels, we done did them 5,000 times over. I am ready. I'm ready for this to be over. For real. It's just so much. We're almost there, y'all. One of the things that's been stand out is that there was a group called NYC for Helen that came out, and they were bussed in. They came from New York City to come to Philadelphia to help with canvassing efforts. Gim has gotten endorsements from, she's got endorsements from Bernie Sanders. She's gotten endorsements from AOC. The national endorsements keep coming in. There is going to be a rally in Philadelphia next Sunday on the 14th to get people to come out and vote for Helen. Bernie Sanders is coming down to Philadelphia to get people to vote for her. It is very telling what is happening. And honestly, this is my opinion, but I just really have concerns. I feel like more so that this has become more of a, almost like a demagoguery. Like, you're focused on getting these national people to come out about you. There's national interest that these people don't know anything about Philadelphia for real. This is a very local city. And to just have so much national investment coming in to focus specifically on a primary race like this, I don't think that's resonating with voters outside the base that she already has. That's just what I think. I just feel like who is actually like Mark Ruffalo and Jane Fonda literally endorsed Helen. Voters are going to be moved by that. Anybody who was undecided is not going to give a fuck what Mark Ruffalo thinks. But they might give a damn about what, Michael Nutter thinks or Ed Rendell. Perhaps. Some of them might care what John Strik has to say. But some of these endorsements have gotten over the top. So what also came out, and speaking of endorsements, Maria Canela-Sanchez came out to endorse Sherelle Parker. That was met with some drama from people who basically, feel like she was doing it for alleged cabinet seat position. A lot of people, have felt different ways. I mean, her recent list of endorsements came out across the board. She only endorsed women for those seats. She didn't endorse any men. So Isaiah Thomas, who was a long-time supporter for her, did not come out, and she did not endorse him. But that's because she didn't endorse other candidates. I've been hearing in the Sherelle Parker camp, not directly from Sherelle Parker, let me be very clear, but I've been hearing from that team that they've been shaking down people, allegedly, for more money for ballots that's going out. There's been a lot of interesting relationships. Across the board, I've been hearing all types of interesting things in this race. Cindy Bass flyers have been going out in the Germantown neighborhood by Jeff Brown supporters. So Jeff Brown people have been pushing Cindy Bass material. And I've heard from deep sources connected to Germantown that apparently Jeff Brown's camp are Cindy Bass supporters, or they like Cindy Bass. And that, Cindy Bass's people are interested in Jeff Brown, but there's been no public endorsement. Cindy Bass has not publicly endorsed Jeff Brown for mayor, but it seems to be appearing that there is a relationship between both of them. Now, politically, I will tell you that I know from history that Sherelle Parker and Cindy Bass, even though they're in the Northwest, they do not like each other. They do not really get along, and that has been something for years. So I'm not surprised, but I am a little surprised that she would go for a Jeff Brown in this race. But hey, what do I know? I mean, I guess if you're not going to go for Sherelle, then I guess the other alternative would be Jeff Brown. So I guess people think black voters are going that direction because she's definitely not going to do Helen Gim. But I mean, there could have been other candidates she could have considered. So that's been very telling to me. But long story short, there has been reports that basically Jeff Brown canvassers have been also pushing out Cindy Bass literature. So, some of you all live in the area, you might want to ask your fave about that. So, what else before I get into these endorsements? Who am I voting for and why? Because I feel like a lot of y'all have been asking and I've been sitting on my hands, but it's time. It's time. It's time for me to explain my rationale. It's time for me to come out the closet and tell you all this. But before I do, a lot of you all asked me about ballot questions. And I'm going to do that real quick because I know a lot of the ballot questions are going to be coming up. And I want to make sure that I don't leave anybody in the dark pertaining to that. So I'm going to go quickly with this because I know you all are here for the main event. Question number 1 on the ballot is, should the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to expand the requirements for the annual minimum appropriations to the budget stabilization reserve, more commonly known as, quote, the rainy day fund? I will tell you, in my opinion, my position is that we should definitely do that. That's my recommendation. We should do yes to that. Now, the other question number 2. So the first question that you'll see on your ballot, say yes to question number 1. That's my opinion. We should definitely do that. Catherine Gilmer Richardson was backed by the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, would help ensure larger deposits to better shield the city from unforeseen financial crises. I think the amendment is good. I think that we should have it. I think it's important. So say yes to that, question number 1. Question number 2, should the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to create the Division of Workforce Solutions within the Department of Commerce and to define its duties? No, we don't need this. The answer is no. The city's Commerce Department helps support a lot of people. This proposal would set up a department of workplace that would, according to the amendment, promote workplace development activity, yada, yada, yada. But the department already has an Office of Business Development and Workforce Solutions, and that is focused on employers. I mean, investing in workforce development is good, but we need to properly set this up. And I think that the mayor should figure this out. I don't really think this should be, this larger city thing. That doesn't require any funding. But it will likely mean that it will increase the workload of an already burdened department. So even though they're not asking for an increase in budget, we're going to put more work on people to do more work, and they probably not get paid less. I'm going to say no to this. This is too much bureaucracy for my taste. So question number 2 is no. Question number 3, should the Philadelphia Rule Charter be amended to make employees of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission exempt from civil service hiring requirements? I'm saying yes. The question number 3 is yes. Okay? Because the reality is the goal of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission is to hold the Philadelphia Police Department accountable. Okay? And to be honest, the carve out would separate commission employees from those in the police department, and also exempt commission from the cumbersome civil service hiring requirements that have contributed to staffing shortages. Like, we don't need this bureaucracy. This is way too much. So we should exempt them from all of that. That's civil service hiring. Like, we need to have the police citizens oversight be more open and more flexible. I just think we should become more independent. This oversight agency should become more independent in its work, period. So for me, the answer is no for question number 2. Question number 3, okay. Should the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to make employees of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission? I'm sorry I said that. The answer is yes. Yes for question number 3. Okay, so the last question number 4. Should the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to create the Office of the Chief Police Safety Director and to define its powers, duties, and responsibilities. Okay, so at first we thought this was wild. With all of these murders, shootings, people thought that this position would help extend this and address this. But to be honest, this new position will likely not result in meaningful change. It's going to be another level of bureaucracy. It gives officials another person to blame when things don't improve. It's too much money being spent. It's a waste of money. We don't need another person to do this. I'm going to say no. So the answers is yes, no, yes, no. So when you go to the poll, questions go down. Question 1, yes. Question 2, no. Question 3, yes. Question 4, no. Yes, no, yes, no. Just remember yes, no, yes, no. Yes, yo, no, yes, no. Just remember that when you go do the questions on the ballot. That's my recommendations for that. And now, finally, my rationale for who I'm going to support for mayor. Okay. So this was a lot, okay? And to be clear, a lot of people talk about ranked voting. And so I'm going to rank each of these candidates from the lowest person that will absolutely not get my consideration to number 1, the person who I believe is best in line to do this job. So if it was ranked voting, and I will tell you this, I will have this piece will be published. So for those who you all are hearing this, if you're listening to this podcast super early in the morning, if you're listening to it early, you want the first core 200 listen to the podcast, what I'm talking about will be published in Philly Mag. There'll be a full story about it and everything like that. But here I am telling you all first about this. And this is just my take. And I go more in detail in the story, but I'm going to talk to you all about this. So let's go. Coming in at number 7 on my list. This is the absolute person I will not absolutely support. I don't think should be mayor. I don't think they deserve to be it. This person is number 7, Jeff Brown. Let's be clear. Jeff Brown has no political experience, but he thinks he should be elected to the most important role in city government. I mean, yes, he's a millionaire that has a local grocery, but that does not automatically qualify him to run a multi-billion-dollar municipality, okay? He's had, as you all know throughout this podcast, I've talked about his sloppy and problematic campaign, and if that is indicative of how he will run Philadelphia, we should immediately reject him at the polls. I mean, the racial insensitivity, the major allegations of being unethical, he's not ready to represent this city right now. I mean, he just isn't. And before this primary, I want to be very clear. I did think there were some good things about him or some notable deeds. But his because of this race, I began to question his entire character and his intention for doing this service. He lies, he code switches, he's kind of mean-spirited during the debates. And I just find him more Trumpian than anything else. His campaign is a prime example of why everyone with big ideas or just an inflated ego shouldn't run for office. That's just my opinion. Number 6. Number 6 is a 3-way tie between James DeLeon, Warren Bloom, and Alicia Docia Gray. It's a 3-way tie for them, to be very clear. They're number 6. I'm just going to be clear. These are long shots, the 3 of them. They're long shots. And they're not going to win on May 16th. Okay, next Tuesday, they're not winning. I'm very confident in saying that none of these 3 people are going to win. They lack the visibility, the viability, the name recognition to make any serious impact. But I will say this about James Leon. He has tried to promote some plausible solutions. His local incident management system, it's not the best plan in the world, but there is some things that might be interesting that maybe some of these mayoral candidates can apply when they become mayor. But Bloom and Gray, you know what? Best of luck to your future endeavors outside of politics. Okay, it's just not happening. Number 5, it's Almond Brown. Here's the thing: he is definitely the better Brown in this race. Clearly, he shines the brightest when he talks about his lived experience around being a victim of gun violence and deep poverty. I mean, he's 31. He's 35 years old. He's the youngest candidate in the race. It is clear that he has one of the most directly impacted experiences as a candidate. A lot of these people are talking about this from the sidelines. But I will say that even though he has that experience, I don't think he's ready to be the 100th mayor of Philadelphia. Look, he's got a good track record of, running in competitive races and winning. He's been in Harrisburg for a few years. He's been able to stand out, that he's made a name for himself. I think we're gonna, for better or for worse, know his name, right? But it's clear that a lot of his policies and his gaffes, I mean, the idea of banning ski masks to combat gun violence is just immature. The gaffe that he had with Rebecca Reinhardt, that was just awkward. But he just needs more governmental experience before he sets his sights on running for a position like mayor. But he does get an E for effort for me, for staying in the race longer than anybody predicted. Like, most people would have thought that he would have dropped out of the race by now. And the crazy thing is, he has not dropped out. So the fact that he has not dropped out the race thus far has lasted longer than Maria, has lasted longer than Derek Green. I mean, that's something to be said. So I'll give him that credit. But he's not ready yet. Not his time. I think that's fair. Number 4, Helen Gim. So let me say this about Helen Gim, right? Helen Gim's mayoral campaign should be a case study in how the very elements of what makes a city council person at large does not work for a mayor's race. It just does not work. When she is at her best, I'll give Helen Gim this. Helen Gim's passion is very persuasive. It's very contagious. I get why those who may not be following her all the way can be enamored by her, or not enamored by, but allured by her, but persuaded by her. She is good. She's a good orator. She's a good speaker. She's a good public speaker. She's very passionate. She's sharp. When she's on it, right? And no one can take that away from her. Her rhetoric, her words, her appeal, they're unmatched. But it's her actions, y'all, that has raised the red flag for me. It's always been Helen Gim's actions. Her words, her rhetoric, all of that stuff looks good. But there are decisions that she's made that just does not sit well with me. She's progressive, she's anti-establishment, but she's been consistently hypocritical. She cozies up to the Bobby Heenans and the Johnny Docks of the world. She hangs out in the Union League while calling other people out for bigotry. But the other issue I have with her is the lack of credibility and how she plans to fund all these big ideas in her campaign. I still do not understand how she plans to fund this stuff without things going higher, without stuff going out of whack with the budget, without taxes increasing. I just don't see how that works. She's also very polarizing, and polarizing in the type of way that, I'm not saying she's anti-business, but the way that she has publicly ridiculed institutions that she's going to need to work with, I just feel like running for mayor requires less ideological individualism and more collaborative compromise. And I don't think she has the ability to collaborate with people. And I don't think she has the ability to understand how to compromise on certain things to get shit moving. So I just think it goes against the political firebrand that she's been for years. I think her trying to be mayor is not who she is. She should have ran for, Congress. She could have been the next city council president if she got a nice progressive base in city council. But I just don't think that the mayor's seat is actually the best for her, because I don't think she has the type of discernment and also the type of, temperament, to be honest. I think she's a cult of personality. I think that she suffers from cult of personality. And I think that's going to hurt her in the mayor's office. So if she wins, it's a little scary. It's a nail biter, because I feel like what's going to happen to her is that the way that she's running her race, a lot of people think there's going to be this ginormous radical change, and it's not going to work that way. And I think she's getting people super, super excited for nothing. It reminds me of Krasner, right? Krasner has come with these big sweeping ideals, but we've seen very quickly how Krasner's got a couple of things done, but he's had to a little bit toe down to a little bit of the status quo to get certain stuff, but he's not moving at the rapid speed to which people want. And now he's getting blamed by a lot of the issues in the city that some of that doesn't have anything to do with him, but because people thought there was going to be this groundswell movement, it didn't really happen like that. Instead, you got these big, huge, over-the-top inflated egos, but you really did not get that strong change that we all thought we was going to see. So I think it's a lot of talk, but not enough walk there. Number 3, Alan Dom. So let me say this about Alan Dom. Look, he's everything that you kind of want from a businessman and public servant, right? He listens, he learns, he leads. He's a simple guy. He's made a name for himself and a lot of money. and, forms of outside of politics. But let me say this. He is not dismissing the level of governmental experience that's required to do this job, right? What I would tell people in these conversations that are folks that are debating between Dom or Jeff Brown, Alan Dom is what you think Jeff Brown is going to be. The issue with Jeff Brown is talking a lot of shit and he doesn't know how government works and he doesn't have the experience. When you look at Alan Dom is a businessman, a successful businessman, but he also has governmental experience. And for all of the fear mongering that people thought they was going to get with him when he was in office, he's really, for the most part, is steered clear from any major controversies or scandals. He doesn't have them, He doesn't really have these big sweeping things. He's had a couple of run-ins with certain stuff, but he's taken full accountability. He's been transparent. But he hasn't really been this bad thought to people. It's funny because for all the trash talk about Dom when he runs for office, when he's in office, you don't get all of that from him. He's all about term limits, which is bold. He wants to abolish the sheriff's office, which nobody else that's running has said that. It's plausible. I gotta say, that is definitely a big damn deal to me, personally. But I say all this to say that he's got a sense of calmness. He's chill. But at the end of the day, he's the safest and arguably least exciting option out of everybody, right? If you're a super moderate or you're a middle-of-the-road voter who's not moved by him, if you're not moved by anything else, let me clarify that, here's your answer, right? If you're somebody who's missionary, no shade, boring, you just like, look, I don't got time for no razzle-dazzle, I don't want to make history, Alan Dom is your safest bet. He can do the job, but is he the most exciting person to do the job? No. To be clear, in a city that's a majority of color and hasn't elected a woman for mayor, this is better off for options worth considering in this race. Either way, though, I just still believe that Dom is still going to be an important figure in Philadelphia, and we're still going to be talking about Alan Dom for many years to come, with or without him being the mayor. So, much not lost there. Number 2, Sherelle Parker. So let me say this about Sherelle Parker, because some of y'all going to be like, what? Huh? Well, think about the other people that I've discussed. I mean, it's a ranking game, y'all. I didn't say this person is who I'm voting for, clearly. Thank God I can only vote for one candidate. But let's be clear. Sherelle Parker is my number 2 because, listen, she does have the most intergovernmental experience in this race. She's been serving over a decade in office. She was a state representative. She was recently a district city council member. So there's no doubt that she's ready for the job. I believe she's ready for the job. I think that Sherelle Parker could be mayor of Philadelphia. I have no questions about that. Look, she's got deep connections with Republicans and leaders across the aisle in both Harrisburg and City Council. She has the personal lived experience as a Black woman from working class beginnings to inform her decision making. Like, she has those things. You can't take that away from her. And to be honest, if this was 2015, she would have been a sure bet for this seat. If someone like her, like a Miriam Tasco, would have ran in 2015 against Kenny, this would be a different conversation, and I definitely think she should win, right? It would have been a different conversation. But I'm sorry, y'all. In 2023, Sherelle Parker's inability to evolve past her entrenched establishment ties, her hyper-moderate stances on policing, safe injection sites, and stop and frisk makes her more of a relic of the past than a promise of the future. I can't get past a lot of the super entrenched establishment ties that she has. It's just, part of my concern about her, and has been for a while, is that if Sherelle Parker becomes mayor, is the mayor's seat Sherelle Parker's seat, or does it belong to everybody from big labor, right, who has already been running this city for goddamn too long, right? We didn't already seen Johnny Doc literally buy a city council seat from Bobby Heenan. I'm not saying that the current leadership is buying this seat, because that's not what's happening. But I just kind of feel like I don't know what her core interests are. I can't see past the talking points of everyone else that's guiding her. And when you have these major super PACs that are really pushing candidates in a certain way, the PACs that's pushing her, they're leading her. They're the ones on the ground. And that's concerning to me slightly. I just feel like we're going to get the same of the same. Will Philadelphia be a collapsal disaster? Absolutely not. But we're never going to be the prosperity. We're never going to be that city on the shining hill in Philadelphia, in America, under Sherelle Parker. We're just going to have a continuation of what we already have. And, I just think that for somebody who's been around Philadelphia for so long, I just feel like she should there's a different way she could have ran her race. I just feel like there's just been so much arm wrangling over there. All this black political support that she's getting currently right now, people argue that's been forced. The enthusiasm is not there. There's not a lot of black elected officials that I feel have been enthusiastic about supporting her. They've been dragging their feet. And I've heard of rumors and speculation of a get down, lay down types of conversation with certain leaders and supporters to force people's hand in endorsing and supporting her. That's the allegations. And I do sense, and I will say this, and I will never say this out. I mean, I will never name names, but there are some people that I've spoken to that feel like they're basically being forced to support her because if they don't, they're worried about their support for their future upcoming races down the road. So a lot of this seems to just be very manufactured and machine-like, and she seems to be the party establishment. I mean, Bob Brady, even though they haven't endorsed anybody, Bob Brady would rather have Sherelle than anybody else. Council President Darrell Clark is endorsing her. It just seemed like more of the same with Sherelle. But voters will have to decide, next Tuesday, whether they want more of the same under a Park administration or something more worthwhile. I think that her true status quo appeal is more of the former than the latter. That's just my opinion. Okay, so number one, the person that I'll be voting for, the person I think you all should be voting for, the person that I think is ready on day one, the person I think will really be the best pick, it's Rebecca Reinhardt. Number one, Rebecca Reinhardt. Look, Rebecca Reinhardt isn't the most charismatic voice in the race. We know that Helen Gim and Sherelle Parker definitely got that over her by a mile. But she is definitely the most insightful candidate with the most relevant experience for the job. And there's a difference between having the most intergovernmental experience versus having the most relevant experience. Rebecca Reinhardt has served as the former city treasurer, the former budget director, the chief administrative officer, and the controller. And she has served under two different mayors, Mayor Michael Nutter and Mayor Kinney, and has established her own reputation of being the city's top watchdog. Like she's just done did it, okay? With that level of experience, I mean, the fact that she has three former mayors, Rendell, Street, and Nutter, that has decided to endorse her, that means something. Now, the only candidate outside of her that got a mayoral endorsement was Alan Dom. Bill Green endorsed him. Mayor Bill Green endorsed Dom. He went way back, child, to get that endorsement. But he did get that endorsement, right? There's been a lot of talking points from her opponents that have bragged about, her opponents have bragged about. The talking points her opponents have bragged about, she has been able to achieve without a fuss. She's been able to defeat the establishment. Okay, she went against Alan Bukovitz, back in 2017, and she won. She has caught out the mayor with data, and has collaborated with various agencies and community groups to explore solutions. Like, she has maximized what she could do. Now, some people will dismiss her troubleshooting nature as robotic. They'll say she's a tacticianer, but she's done what none of the people in city council and those opponents can say for themselves. She's maximized all the tools she had in various roles to better serve the city. And now that she's looking to become the first woman mayor ever to serve, I truly believe that she's going to take this information that she's learned over the years and apply them with the right temperament and discernment. And I think she's the most ethically astute candidate in the race. She has an impeccable track record of getting shit done. And I think she also has the courage, and she's already shown that she has the courage to really take on unpopular but necessary action. I think the thing I would say the most about Rebecca Reinhardt is that she's a pragmatic progressive. And that's what we really need in Philadelphia. I think A pragmatic progressive is somebody who wants to move the city forward, that is really much astute and reasonable and ethical and has the meaning and has the compassion for issues, but she's also realistic and she's also somebody that's going to really forge out a legitimate plan to execute the things that she wants to do. That's what it means to be a pragmatic progressive. And I don't think that anyone else in this race has been able to show a level of compassion and wokeness for these issues while also having the actual direct impact and interest, right? The strategy and the plan and the playbook. Let me break this down to people who don't understand what a city controller do, because I've seen Sherelle Parker, make these remarks about, I just didn't do audits and reports and white papers. Yeah, but you know what, Sherelle, you've been around for a long time and you haven't really done a lot to make the rest of Philadelphia look as good or feel as good as the Northwest. Okay, you have been in these entrenched elite circles where you have basically been focused, okay, on these relationships with the same people that took care of you and your people, but you let other parts of the city just fall by the wayside. I don't believe that if you're mayor, you're going to come in here and do anything different than what you've already been doing. And that's just facts on facts. To Helen Gim, who's recently ran these attacks, talking about when, Rebecca was on the budget with Nutter back in the day when they had cut Firehouse and all these types of things. You know what's interesting is that it's funny how she has skipped over the soda tax. She skipped over her support of regressive policies like the soda tax or some of the things that Kenny has done that she hasn't skirted over, because she's not going to attack Kenny, even though Doc and all of them have been family. She won't ever speak on the types of decisions and things she's made, but she's going to try to correlate and act like the budgetary decision that was made, that all of those things, that wasn't, the mayor doesn't have that discernment over everybody else. See, this is what it means to understand how power works and goes. Let's keep it all the way 100. Rebecca has never been given the opportunity to actually have the executive role to actually dictate the direct city issues, because she has not been an elected politician in that type of vicinity. But when you look at what she did at the controller's office, she did far and beyond what Buckovitz ever had did in that office, because the fact is that Rebecca chose to tackle various city agencies. It didn't matter who it was. She came right out of Mayor Kenny's administration and went right after Kenny and confronted him about all of these budgetary decisions he was making. She literally could have left that alone and been quiet and been passive, but she went into the discomfort. She did the best goddamn audit on the Philadelphia Police Department when the tear gassing incident happened. She did not have to do that, but she did. DHS, the sheriff's office. She's taken unpopular positions to keep us informed. And you know what's funny? All of those reports were then used by city council to inform them to do policy. And you know what many of them did? Not a goddamn thing. So what's funny is that we know that with the controller's role with audits is that Rebecca knows where all the bodies are buried. Rebecca knows where all of the problems are in the city because she did the fucking research. And so you know what she's going to do on day one when she becomes mayor? She's going to be able to say, let's go after the sheriff's office. Let's go after some of these departments that's been fucking up with the money. Now that I'm the mayor, I'm in a position where I can make a strong decision because I have the facts and the fucking findings. She's been giving city council this information in the city for years, and none of them touched it because of politics. So for all the shit that Helen Gim has to say, Sherelle has to say, what did y'all do? What did y'all do? What did you do with that data that she got? What did you do with those reports that she produced? You did nothing. And so I'm supposed to expect you city council people to get in this mayor's seat and be something different when you all have been in there for over, some of y'all 8, 12 years you've been in power and you ain't did a goddamn thing. So I really believe strategically that there's a reason why Rebecca's been in the lead or tied for the lead. Because here's the things that she got that nobody else got on this damn table. She's got governmental experience. She is not a part of city council. So she's not dealing with all the drama that comes with their inadequacies, right? She's got the outsider-insider purview. She's a woman. So if you elect her, she will make history. And on top of that, she's not inundated with all of this scandal and controversy that all these other candidates got. I think that people want a woman for mayor. And I think that people want someone that's not from city council for mayor. I think people want somebody that has experience, but also is not caught up in the fray of all this mudslinging. Rebecca has really kept herself clean through all of this shit. And now there's some people that's coming at her for her, for other things, for her past, because, she was in Wall Street many, 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 many years ago. Like, 15 years ago she was in Wall Street. But she came to city government and took the information and education she had to make city life better, to make things more transparent, to get in there and do the work. So that's why I'm supporting her. That's why I'm voting for her. I've listened at the debates. I've talked to various candidates. I've talked to their camps. I've done the research, and I think that she is the most qualified, most prepared, and the best option we have in this very, very disappointing slate of candidates. I think that she is the best option. I think that, Sherelle will find new things to do. She might run for state senator. She might take our Haywood seat. Who knows? She might run for a state senator position down the road. Dom is going to be fine. He's going to continue to be a great public servant. He'll donate to charities and philanthropies. Dom is going to be okay. Helen Gim will probably get herself together and run for Congress. She's not leaving the conversation. Almond Brown will stay in the state house seat and probably move up the rankings there if he can figure out what he wants to do next. I don't know what Delecia Gray, James Bloom, I don't know what they're going to be doing. They just going to be somewhere. And then lastly, Jeff Brown. Look, Jeff Brown, I don't know what's going to happen to Jeff Brown, because we got to see what's going to come with these lawsuits and all this stuff. He keeps lying and saying that the case is settled. I want everybody listening to this podcast to know that that is not true. Jeff Brown is still facing a lawsuit from the Board of Ethics. It has not been settled. It is not over. So whatever comes of that situation will be very telling. But that's it. That's who I'm supporting. That I'm coming out. I'm telling you all that's who it is. And I won't be covering the mayor's race this primary as extensively now that I'm out the closet. So, I'm just going to be focused on the candidates and just, giving opinions. But I won't be doing the deep dive reporting, because I'd rather choose to tell people who I want. And I waited till the final week to do this, because I knew that there were, I didn't know who I was going to support in January. Let me be very clear. I didn't wake up and choose this decision immediately. I, like you all, watched the forums, engaged with the media, read the articles to get to this point. And I'm at this point, and, it is what it is. So, vote for Rebecca Reinhardt. That's who I'm voting for. That's all. So, moving on. I was going to talk a lot about the Met Gala, but honestly, who gives a fuck about the Met Gala? Met Gala is Met Gala. I mean, Karl Lagerfeld is problematic as fuck. He's fat phobic. He's misogynistic. He's dead now. So, I mean, at this point, it is what it is with that man. But, the Met Gala was odd. The fashion was off this year. I mean, there was a couple of things I thought was nice, but I don't know. I think that these types of fashion shows, I don't know if I'm getting older and less excited about them, or just this year just was just like, whatever. I just feel like there was like a gray cloud. And maybe it's because they was honoring a pig like Karl Lagerfeld. But he's dead now, so it is what it is. So let me get into this Ebony K. Williams situation. A lot of y'all have been asking about it all week. Was like, Ernest, what you think about it? I want to hear your take on it. Ebony K. Williams, she's a writer, reporter, journalist, author of a book. She's a media personality, essentially. Black woman. She's come out with this statement with Ayanna Van Sant. She was talking to her in an interview that I believe was on the Griot. And she basically was asked, would she date a bus driver? And her statement was more about, she said, well, if they owned the bus. And that sparked controversy about conversation around classism, elitism, and that kind of stuff. And then she kind of doubled down a follow-up conversation that felt even more nasty and cruel. Here's my thoughts about this whole bus driver thing. And about women like, Ebony K. Williams. Here's the thing. Every woman deserves to have their own personal preference of who they want to date. And to be honest, men do it every day. So let me just frame this by saying that women have the right to have their own personal preferences about what kind of man they want to date. The same way that a lot of men, especially black men in our community, make their own decisions on what kind of women they want to date. And also, because I guess this is a very cis heteronormative conversation. The straights, y'all, I'm going to talk to y'all as a queer person. I don't listen. The straights, y'all are just a ghetto mess when it comes to these conversations on dating and love and all this bullshit. It's just a mess. So Ebony K. Williams has her right to prefer what she wants to prefer. What I wish, and this is why I'm going to get to the brothers on this, but let me get to this real quick with her. What I wish would stop happening is that high profile, rich, influential women in society would stop trying to promote unrealistic expectations and norms for women who don't live the lifestyle that they live. And also stop making blanket, disgusting generalizations about people in spaces that they don't know. I don't know why "would you marry a bus driver" is pretty much used as a pejorative. Like a bus driver. I'm so sick of the, would you talk to someone who works at McDonald's? Do y'all remember the whole works at McDonald's metaphor? Would your dating person work? What if they worked at McDonald's? Like, there's always this pejorative to anybody who works any type of skill set manual labor. And I'm fucking sick of it because it's so disgusting, it's so elitist, and quite frankly, just say what you really want to say rather than trying to massage it with positions and titles. So let's keep it all the way funky, okay? When people say things like, well, would you date a McDonald's worker? What you're trying to say is, would you date this is the presumption, right? An uneducated, low skills worker. And that's what you think of people like that. You think that they're uneducated, you think that they're low skills, and you're making assumptions that you're judging their judgment and heart based on what type of class structure and system that they would be involved in. So you're trying to make a false comparison to a woman with degrees and a high salary, and you're saying to her, well, I'm going to judge you based on if you date a man that doesn't have as much money as you. That's what you really want to say. Just fucking say that with those assumptions. But then some of these assumptions are fucked up because the actual information is not true. So there's people that will conflate a McDonald's worker to, or let's say a McDonald's, entry-level McDonald's employee to a mechanic or to a bus driver. Let me tell you something. If you actually had education and you understood the budgets or money, you would actually know that, let's just say hypothetically, you were talking about money. Bus drivers got some of the goddamn best ass benefits and they get decent, steady paycheck and pay. Mechanics out here make a hell of a lot of money, depending on what kind of work and skills that they're actually doing. Do not sleep on a brother with a good union job and good benefits. Just saying, okay? There are some people out here that do construction work that make way more money than people that sitting up on 10 degrees. Let me tell you something, okay? If we're talking about money, then talk about money, but get factual about money. The problem is you're not talking about money. You're talking about status. You're not talking about money. And so sometimes people get caught up in I'm talking about money. You're not talking about money. You're talking about status. Because the truth of the matter is that if I told you, would you date a banker with a Penn degree over a carpenter? The carpenter could be making more money than an entry-level banker in some spaces. The pejorative is focused specifically on the type of status the person has. So let's keep it clear that it's a conversation about status. It's not a conversation about money. Because money and status do not necessarily combine. There are people who have a low, quote-unquote, class status in society, but are filthy rich or have lots of money investments. I will tell you that I have a barber. My barber does not have a college degree. He is not college educated. But this man definitely has more money than me. He owns real estate properties. He's taking money and he invests in properties across West Philadelphia. He owns the barber shop and he cuts hair for 30 years, but he just does that for leisure. But he owns a successful barbershop, but he also invested a lot of his money into properties throughout West Philadelphia. Properties that wasn't worth shit in the 90s, but now worth a lot of money. And he has tenants and he's a landlord. Okay? That man definitely has more money than me. He summers in Martha's Vineyard every summer. He's put his 3 daughters through college. His wife has a college degree, and he got money to help invest for her to have a beauty salon. So let's be clear. If I said to you, would you date Ernest Owens with a Penn degree and a USC master's compared to a man that was a barber who owned a couple of properties. Based on status, you're gonna go with me. Based on money, you will go with him. But the fucked up part about Ebony K. Williams and people that think like her is that she makes the assumption that my class, my status, right, will mean I would have wealth. Now, let's be clear. My ability to eventually get to a point where I will make more money, do I have higher earning potential down the future? Yes, I do. But the reality is that that person is doing pretty damn good for themselves and is a very good catch. And he has children, he's married. For those who might be like, well, where can I find him? No, he's married. But I say all to say that there's a lot of people like him in the world. But because of these false dichotomies and these stupid ass binaries, we limit ourselves in the conversation to being more specific. So let's make it very clear and let's make it very plain. High profile women like Ebony K. Williams want to date men of status. Point blank, period. That's it. That's just what it is. She wants a man with status. It has nothing to do with money. She conflates status with money, but money and status are not always together. She's looking at status because she's looking at somebody that she feels like can complement her in the lifestyle that she has. And you know what? That's fair. That's fair. When I look back at my love life, okay, I've dated various men who did various types of jobs. Many of them were legal, and some of them I found out later was illegal. Not at the time. I didn't date criminals, okay? Well, criminals knowingly. Everybody had different jobs. I dated some people that went to community college. I dated some people that, just got their GED that was doing other types of manual skill labor. I dated people who just did retail. I dated people who also had doctorates and law degrees. I've dated different people from different various walks of life when it comes to their status. What I found for myself is that I wanted somebody that had inter-status experience, meaning that this is somebody who can navigate within various different circles. So my husband, as you all know, has a Penn degree. He's getting a master's at Johns Hopkins. I also met him at Penn, and I have a master's degree. It doesn't dawn upon me that naturally I would be married to someone in that same tier as myself. My best friend, one of my best friends, Abel, he's in a relationship with a woman who they both went to Penn. They both got master's degrees at Harvard in the same field, which is interesting. That isn't to say that Abel would have not had interest in other women, because he definitely has been interested in different women, some of them who are probably regretting not pursuing him or taking it more seriously years later. Who knows? But the truth of the matter is that sometimes in reality, you naturally will connect with people that's already in your orbit. And it's not that you're being elitist or saying you wouldn't be open to dating other types of people, but sometimes you're just not presented with those people. For me, as a Black queer man, my options was always open and flexible, because I lived in the reality that, okay, some of these spaces that I'm in, am I going to find a man that I'm attracted to that's out? So I did date outside of my social status and my bubble. But at the end of the day, sometimes those relationships did not work because the person I was dating was just not comfortable in those spaces, or they just felt intimidated by a lot of the things I had going on compared to them. And that shit is real. And it's not to say that everyone's like that, because there are definitely other men that I dated that definitely understood it and was cool and collective, but we just didn't see eye to eye on other things. So it isn't to say that there's a perfect finite explanation, but what I want people to be more honest about is that we're having conversations about money and class, but the truth of the matter is that people want to date people that are comfortable within their status. And status can mean different things because it's all about comfort. It's all about connection. It's all about chemistry. And so we got to be real about that. And I think that the Ebony K. Williams of the world will never just simply say the point that they want to say without throwing people under the bus. This reminds me with Black men when they are in interracial relationships. A lot, but not all, of Black men that I oftentimes meet that are in relationships with white women specifically, I'll say, oh, what made you want to date this person or whatever? What made you date this name, insert name, white woman's name? Becky. Let's say Becky. What made you date Becky? It'd be like, oh, she cool, but black girls be tripping. It's like there always has to be a default to shaming or coming for black women. That's always been something that's kind of stood out to me. That there's always been this pattern of every time we talk about white women, they discuss white women, they're always comparing them to black women or having a shit on a black woman in the conversation. And listen, I've had many conversations at the barbershop where every black man that I've gone to the barbershop, I would say 99% of the time when it comes up or they say they date a white woman, there is some conversation that follows up that leads to a shot towards a black woman or something, or an ex that they dated that was black. And it's like, why do those two things have to be your reality? It's the anti-blackness for me. It's the misogynoir for me. It's the fetish for me. And so when I hear people like the Ebony K. Williams make these shots at bus drivers, or when I hear people like Iyanla come in and say, when they're trying to challenge people's love life, to say, well, would you date us? Like, it's kind of like, why do you feel like that's an insult? Like, it's being used as a pejorative. Like, why do you think that that's an example to use? Like, do you think less of this person? Do you think that this person is of lesser value, of interest? Like, why would you assume that they wouldn't be open to it already? What is the larger point being made here? And so I'm just tired of that throwing under the bus type of rhetoric that is happening. Because it's very classless. It's very classist and classless, to be honest. It's very classist. And it's also just, it's not realistic of where we are in society. So, listen, like who you like, date who you want to date, be real about it. I've been seeing people bite the bait. Some of my friends, they see these stupid gender conversations on Instagram and on Twitter. And I keep telling people, stop having these dumb battle of the sexes conversations on social media. All this, men do this, women do this, hubby do this, wife do this. I want to be real with y'all that somebody told me for a while, that is for the algorithm, y'all. People use these debates to run up the algorithm, to run up links, to sell products, to sell shit. I can't tell you how many people I've seen on Twitter will start some stupid ass conversation, and a bunch of people like to get on there and virtue signal, because that's what it is virtue signaling. They like to go on there and virtue signal and create all this hot air. And then what you don't realize that the person goes viral, and then after they go viral, they start trying to sell things. Oh, by the way, I didn't expect this to go viral, but buy my new product, use my discount code. They literally are stunting online to get engagement. And every time you share that shit, rather than share Ernest Owens' post or share something that I've written or something I've done or share a jamarcusonline.com link, you are wasting valuable time to incite and direct your people. If you saw something stupid, the answer isn't let everybody else see the stupid thing. The answer is to actually actually not even engage with it at all. There is so much dumb shit I see on the internet by irrelevant people, by people who don't hold any actual influence. And I'm not going to respond to none of those dumb posts because I know that they want a verified account like me to make them pop. So as I've gotten older, I have spent less time quote tweeting dumbasses. If I see a dumbass statement, I'm only going to address it if it's from an actual politician or celebrity or someone who should know better or have influence. I'm not going to respond to random ass troll bot accounts, people who don't even have real actual followers or bought followers. I'm just not going to give these people the same energy. I'm just putting that out there. So don't bite the apple. And let me tell you what I think happens on social media. And this is just a theory because I see the straights carry on. A lot of times, a lot of the women I see on Instagram that play into the gender roles and the I do this, my man did this. A lot of times they are actually they're overperforming gender roles because in their real relationship, the roles are probably in reverse or not as prominent. And that is because we live in a society that when it deals specifically with black women are oftentimes, they're not allowed to be feminine, right? Under these stereotypical notions. They're not allowed to be docile. They're not allowed to be soft and that type of narrative, right? And so what I've seen a lot of younger women do lately is reinforce these very paternalistic um roles. Like, oh, look, I cook for my man for working hard. But what they don't tell you is that she probably paid for the food herself. She's probably paying the rent in that apartment that man is coming into. And 9 times out of 10, the man who's doing the job is probably doing the job that she doesn't want y'all to know about because she probably has shame about his socioeconomic status. But she'll perform the dutiful, wifey role on Instagram because that's what people want to see. Because there's a presumption that if a woman is being spoiled by her man, then it is. I've seen a lot of women that I know, and I'm not going to name names, that will sit up on social media and they will talk about being flued out by their man. Like their man flew them out to these trips, or their man gave them this money and bought their nails and got their hair and all this stuff done. But the reality is that they paid for that shit themselves, and the man probably didn't do any of that. But the reality is that if they said they did that and they have a boyfriend, because of the sexism in society, people would say to them, well, how you got a man if your man not doing this? Because people put gender roles on people, right? They say the man is supposed to do this, and this. And if your man ain't doing this, then you ain't got a real dude. So there are women who privately, behind the scenes, will pay for all of the things and put on that perception and persona because they feel like they have to justify their love to the public. Girl, live your best fucking life. Fuck what these people got to say. If that's the man you with and you love him and y'all have an understanding and y'all doing it and y'all doing what y'all got to do to make it work, then make it the fuck work. I just don't understand why there is still these same standards. And the problem is that for women that try to perform these types of settings before the public, they're doing it because of that. Because let's be clear, if everybody, I'm keeping it all the way 100 right now, and this it's about to get real spicy. But if everybody's man, right, if this is what it is, if all these black women had all these men that was treating them and paying their bills and paying for everything and taking them out and flying them out, then how come, these marriage rates, like, why is not everybody getting married? Why are we hearing these horror stories? Why are we hearing all these stories about, like I'm just trying to figure out, make it make sense. And what's crazy is that I always see these stories where you always see this go down, where the woman, when they're dating the guy, talks about, oh, my man spoiled me. I'm luxury. And it's always the same type of luxury. It's not like luxury is in self-care. It's like, oh, look, I got a Louis bag. I got a Prada bag. My man bought this. My man bought that. My man. That, people do that, right? And so then what happens is when the relationship is over, then you see these same girls on social media going, he was broke and I had to pay his rent. He never had gas in his car. And it's like, oh, so that's what really was happening. But you was ashamed to just be real or just to not even flex. The reality is nobody wants you to lie, but no one needs you to flex. Just live your life and be with your fucking man. Nobody needs to be in y'all bank account and figure out who paying for what, who paying for this, who paying for that. As long as y'all understand what y'all relationship is about, that's all the fuck that matters. Nobody cares. But I just feel like we live in a society where it has become a point of contention where people feel like they have to overcome stereotypes. But maybe these stereotypes are just not even realistic about where we are in the current economy and society we're in anyway. Maybe they never was. Maybe it was never that deep. Maybe we should have all just never ever tried to believe this stuff. Because when you think about the stories you hear about your favorite couples, it's never like that. When you think about Barack and Michelle, there was a time where Michelle Obama was at a law firm, killing it, doing her thing, when Barack was exploring politics and community organizing. He didn't make as much money as her back in the day. He was at nonprofits. He had all the degrees, baby. See, he had the status, but he didn't have the wealth and the money at that time. But she believed in him, and she believed in his dream, and she loved him. And guess what happened? Look where they are today. When I was dating Barry in the beginning of our relationship, I came fresh out of college and I wanted to be independent. And I had a $450 studio apartment, okay? I was working part-time at West Philadelphia High School. I was writing for the free paper. I wasn't making too much crazy money. And honestly, could I have worked corporate? Could I went anywhere else? Absolutely. But I was really focused on being, on my hustle. I was out here an unsigned, writer or journalist. I was trying to get my feet in the door. I was asking for my mixtapes. Listen to my mixtapes. I was just trying to get on my grind. And I was dating somebody who, look, he was still an undergrad at Penn. He easily could have been like, you know what? You're not the fanciest dude. You know, I could date somebody else. You know, if I'm gonna date somebody that's graduated with a Penn degree, I could get somebody who already there. He didn't do that because he loved me. Because we loved each other. Because at the end of the day, we had the same status. I just wasn't with the money at the time. I was building myself up, and thank God I didn't have, massive student debt or anything. Thank God for that. But, I was in a place of trying to build. So when I see people, talk about these types of dynamics, you're never going to get where you want to be if that's how you're judging and determining love and relationships. So, you know, I just want to put that on the table. Some of y'all be out here having all these weird gender norms and stuff. I'm so happy I'm gay. These are the times I'm like, I'm so happy I'm gay. Cause the straights, y'all be tiring me out with this shit. I'm like, y'all create hell for yourselves and then run the gay clubs for refuge. Just saying. Oops. Moving along. Freddie Gibbs. I don't really want to talk so much about this because it's kind of stupid. It was a Twitter thread recently of this woman who dated him and wanted a baby by him. He had a whole situation. He had previous baby mamas he wasn't taking care of. So she went on Twitter talking about all the things she did for him. And she's much younger than him. He's in his early 40s and she's like in her 20s and whatnot. And she was just talking about how he's not shit. And she's wanting everybody to know he's just a trat, want to embarrass him. And she talking about how she paid his phone bill and all this other stuff. And I'm just sitting here looking like, so you mean to tell me that you saw how this man did other people in his life and you thought you was going to be special because you was non-black? Interesting. All I got to say to people is, look how these men treat their exes. They will treat you the same way. Or anybody, right? Anybody. Look at how they treat their exes, their ex-wife, the mother of their children. Just see how they treat those people. And eventually, you'll be treated like that as well. We're looking at you, Brian McKnight. Fuck you. Okay, moving on. So, Chris Brown. Oh my God. The horror. Okay, this man had a birthday party. His birthday's on May 5th. Cinco de Chris, I guess they were trying to call it. But Chris Brown, so he had a birthday party in Vegas. He performed the Lovers and Friends concert the night before. He had a birthday party this weekend on Friday night. Long story short, he allegedly had an altercation, a confrontation with Tiana Taylor over some drama allegedly involving him being scrapped from the American Music Awards performance due to Michael Jackson tribute for the 40th anniversary of Thriller. So apparently Tiana Taylor was a part of production with that, and the ball got dropped. He got let go at the last minute. He felt some type of way, and it was controversy. He won the award, but Kelly Rowland accepted on his behalf, where she became the ultimate Chris Brown apologist. Apparently, Chris Brown allegedly was upset about this. Usher threw the party for him. Yes, Usher Raymond threw the party for Chris Brown at a roller rink. And pretty much he wanted allegedly for Chris Brown allegedly asked Usher to kick out Tiana Taylor and to tell her not to come to the party. He didn't want her no longer at the party. To which apparently Usher did not do that allegedly. And then apparently there was an altercation or some type of, there's video footage that suggests that there was a confrontation between them. There's been reports of allegations of him getting a bloody nose, Usher, that apparently he was jumped allegedly by Chris Brown's camp and Mario's camp. Because Bow Wow, Mario, Chris Brown, Usher, all of them was at this party. It was a bunch of these like legends from our teeny years. But nonetheless, Chris Brown performed the next day. Usher performed. People said that they looked at his face and thought that there was some type of scratching on his face, but he was in good spirits being performed for the concert. Now, Usher's son, who might be 15 years old, was on Instagram. Can we take a pause real quick? I gagged when I realized that Usher's son was 15. But I want to remind you all that this month marks the 15th anniversary of Usher's album, Here I Stand. 15 years ago, we was listening to Love in the Club. We was listening to Trading Places. All those cute songs off of that album. Now, this is the album that people consider Usher's flop album. It wasn't a flop. It just wasn't as commercially successful of the magnum opus of Usher, which is Confessions. It was a follow-up from Usher's 2004 album. So 4 years later, he dropped an album because that Confessions tour went on for years, and the success, the deluxe editions, the Grammys. I mean, it was a long era for Usher. But Here I Stand was a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more calm. You know, Usher got married to Tamika, who he's no longer married to now, clearly, but it was a short-lived relationship. But at the time, you know, he got married to her. He had his first child, who is now 15, which makes sense because, oh my God, that. But his son went on Instagram and kind of said, you know, don't ask me about it or something along the lines. So it kind of hinted that something had went down over there. But Confessions next spring turns 20 years old. And this is wild because, you know, next month in June will be the 20th anniversary of Crazy in Love, that Dangerously in Love, Beyonce's first solo debut album. Oh my God, her first solo debut album, her debut solo album. Oh my goodness. 20 years, where did it go? I mean, I remember Baby Boy. Like, I remember rocking the Baby Boy, and that was 20 years ago. Where does time go? But I say all this to say, another season, another violent Chris Brown episode. But it seemed like people are finally getting over him. Who knows? I don't know. Part of me is like, I mean, I feel bad for what happened to Usher, and I hope Tiana Taylor's okay. But it's almost like y'all still throwing parties for Chris Brown. Y'all thought y'all was special. Y'all still trying to rock with Chris Brown in spite of himself. Like, Chris Brown has burned almost every bridge around him, and the celebrities around him continue to think they're special. And this is what happens when you think you're special. So, you know, hopefully people take note. But this man is just doing the most. And I'm just so, oh my goodness, I'm just so tired of it. Like, every time I turn around, there's something going on, you know, that just pisses me off. And, you know, it's a lot. You know, it's a lot that's being said. So, you know, just keeping it 100. So now I want to talk about the writer's strike. You know, I am not a member of the Writers Guild of America, but I'm in solidarity with WGA on their efforts to call for a strike. They've been in strike against the streaming companies and the major studios. These are people who write for TV and all these different things. I'm very much so feel some type of way about some of the stuff that's being said, some of the stuff that's been in the news and is being speculated. So I just, you know, want people to know that this writers union is important because there's a lot of writers that we know out here that are basically being exploited for their labor. They're not being paid properly. And a lot of people want to talk about writers' contracts. These contracts are just terrible. These studio companies are making millions upon millions of dollars. These big studio execs are getting hundreds of millions of dollars of annual salaries. But then the crazy part is the director is making millions of dollars. And then these celebrities get, you know, six figures to $1 million. But these writers are barely getting paid, if that. There's many of them who've told stories about how they've been nominated for Emmys or have won Writers Guild Awards and then turn around and cannot afford to keep their lights on or have to relocate or can't even afford to be flown out to go to writer's desk and have to do things virtually. I mean, there's just horror stories of them working at movie theaters to try to keep their living. They're writing on big hit blockbuster shows. Like, these are not like random TV shows. These are big shows that are on streaming networks, and they're not getting hardly a cut of that. So the game has to change. And as a writer myself and as a journalist, this is unacceptable. So support the Writers Guild of America. Follow WGA East or WGA West if you live on the West Coast. But listen to what's being said and support them. On to music. Honestly, music has been feeling dry lately. I just been listening to Jamarcus Henderson, waiting for new music to come from him. I've just been listening to like the stuff I already like. But can I just say real quick before I get into, well, let me get into what's dry. Nicki Minaj, they put out these features that nobody cares about. I'm not here for it. It's boring. But music has been dry. I need some more summer bops. I want some new music. I want some really good music to come out this summer. I'm hearing rumors about new albums from certain artists, but we'll just have to wait and see. You know, I hear Olivia Rodrigo is dropping an album this summer potentially. We'll see. But what I do know is that on July, okay, let me just let y'all know that my body is ready for July. And for those who do not know what's happening on July already, let me let y'all know now that on July 7th, okay, Taylor Swift is dropping her new album. Well, let me clarify. The re-release, the Taylor's version of Speak Now, which is one of her most personal songs ever. Her album, a lot of personal songs. She wrote those songs between the ages of like 18 and 22 to 20. She was very young when she wrote those songs. But Speak Now was a very popular album by her. What makes that album really big is that it was the first album by Taylor Swift to sell 1 million records in the first week when it debuted. And a lot of her other albums have since then done that. The albums that have done that has been Speak Now, that sold 1 million the first week. It was Speak Now. It was Red. It was 1989. It was Reputation and Midnights. So she's had 5 albums sell over 1 million copies in its first week. There might be more, but those I believe are the ones that sold 1 million on the first week of release. But she's had several others that were close. But yeah, she's had like $5 million first week sales. $1 million records sold, platinum, instant platinum albums, basically. Her album just go platinum like that. Her most recent one, Midnights, just killed it. But Speak Now was the first one to do that. And that came after her super successful album, Fearless. So after Fearless came Speak Now, which was a huge hit that really took her to the next level. Well, she's doing a re-release of that album, which is shocking. Because if I was a predictor of Taylor Swift's next album, I thought that 1989 was going to be the next album. But now I predict that I believe that 1989 is coming out next year. Because as you all will know, next year Taylor Swift turns 35, and 1989 is going to be turning 10 years old. So it's going to be the 10th anniversary of 1989 next year, and it will also be her 35th birthday. So I feel like that's the plan for next year's album. Last year, I believe, last year she dropped, did she drop Red last year? No, she dropped Red the year before. Wow, this girl is working. So another self-titled album that's left is Reputation and 1989, and the other album that's left is the self-titled album. So self-titled Taylor Swift. So far, her re-release has been Fearless, it's been Red. But she needs to drop, and then Speak Now is coming out. So those are the 3 that has been already done. So now we need 1989, self-titled, and we need Reputation. The other albums, these are all based on her situation with Scooter Braun. So with Lover was her first independent album outside of Big Machine that Scooter Braun and I have possession over. So all the latest albums that she's dropped since that situation, she's been dropping albums fast. It was Lover, Folklore, Evermore, and then Midnights. So she's got 4 albums that she's dropped within the last 3 years. No, the last 4 years. She's dropped 4 new albums in the past 4 years. God damn. She dropped the album. Yeah, she dropped the album in wow. Yeah, she's dropped the album in 2020. She dropped the album in 2019, 2 albums in 2020, no album in 2021. That was a new album. And then she dropped a new studio album in 2022. So yeah, she's been busy. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A couple of artists on there that I love. Shaka Khan, the legendary Shaka Khan, is on there. In the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee for this cycle. Missy Elliott, who follows me on Twitter. And she is the first Black female artist to ever get inducted in the same year that she was eligible. So Eminem did that. Jay-Z has pulled that off, but no other Black woman artist in music has ever got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on their first year eligibility. Missy Elliott just broke that record. So congratulations to her. She's also the first female rapper to ever be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, period. So go off, Missy Elliott. We love you. She's totally awesome. Shaka Khan, Sheryl Crow, Willie Nelson, On the Road Again. I was surprised that Willie Nelson hadn't been already. There's been a lot of snobs. It's like purists. It's like, I don't know why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's the Rock and Roll Hall. Shut up. It's music. This is the most diverse, eclectic list ever. Really excited about this. This is good news across the board. Um, who else? Who else? Ed Sheeran won his battle against Marvin Gaye's estate. You know that song "Thinking Out Loud." They tried to say that he took elements from a Marvin Gaye song to make that album, but Ed Sheeran beat the allegations, and Ed Sheeran is not accountable for it, which is good. Interesting enough, Ed Sheeran just dropped a new album called Minuses or Subtraction. I think it's Minuses, but it's a new album he just dropped. His music has been interesting lately. I remember, I mean, Bad Habits was a hit. But his music career has been very interesting. I remember like when Ed Sheeran was like unstoppable, like it was unstop, it was uncanny, unstop, unlimited Ed Sheeran fandom. So that's been interesting. But yeah, so getting into TV, Baddies Reunion. Oh my God. Okay, Stevie J, the drama, it's a lot. That's a lot. I've been following all of it. You know, Bad Boys Texas been doing its thing, been killing the game. Power Book 2. Oh my God. I don't want to tell the show, but we got 2 more episodes left until it's over. At least this season is over. Succession. I just, look, every week, I just feel like this is a show, which I mean, I guess I should have known this after 4 seasons, but this is a show where white people, just white people, and we just all have to like live through it. It's almost like they just cut up and show their whole ass on this damn show. It's like the optics of this, like, is this how real rich white people live? I mean, it must be. It must be. Because it's just bananas to me how they are able to pull all this off. There's also a new show I've been watching that just started. It's on Bravo. It's called Summer House Martha's Vineyard. I told you all this before. My friend who's also in the book, Preston Mitchum, who I'm a big fan of, he's a lawyer. He works on civil rights, reproductive rights of women. He's a Black queer activist and advocate. So he has a show called Summer House Martha's Vineyard. I'm watching it. The first episode I watched. It's fun TV. I am, getting warmed up to it. I feel like I need to watch more episodes before I have an opinion. So far, it's a very interesting group of people in this house. That's all I'm going to say. It's a couple of folks in that house that I'm like, ooh, they seem interesting. And I'm like, this person's going to get on my fucking nerves. It is the follow-up to the Real Housewives of Atlanta new premiere, which I didn't watch. I'm not really watching Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm just over that show. I'm just over not all the Real Housewives. Like some of those shows are still good. But I'm just over Atlanta. They need a new cast. I'm just tired of them. Like, we know Candy is not about to pop anybody. It's so performative. They're just doing whatever it takes to keep a storyline going. It reminds me of Love, and it kind of also reminds me of like Love and Hip Hop, because like, now Amara La Negra and Safari are dating now, and I'm just like, how is this deadbeat dad dating Amara La Negra? Like, I don't get it. But this is the type of stuff that people do when they want attention. They're desperate. So I'm a little turned off by some of those antics, but it is what it is for sure. So, in concluding and wrapping up, there is a big announcement that's coming from me on Friday, May 12th. I have a big announcement to make. It's not going to be on the podcast, clearly, because I'm not going to be on the podcast, clearly, until next week. But stay tuned on Instagram and social media. I have a big announcement that's going to be on noon Eastern Standard Time on Friday, May 12th. So stay tuned for that big announcement. Of course, this Thursday, I have my book event at, the Free Library with Brett Mendel. Please show up to that if you can. We're looking at, the event is going to be lit. It's going to be at 7:30, which is pretty dope. It's going to be at 7:30 at the Parkway Central Library. Please come through and support us. Philadelphia Corrupt and Consenting. It's going to be a super dope event. It's going to be a great evening of great conversations, great times. So I'm looking forward to all of the good buzz and the good vibes from that. And this is officially the final week before the election. So I'm just counting down the days, y'all. We're at the final mile, and it's gonna get real. So just stay vigilant, stay woke, look at these ads, check out these candidates, do your research, keep yourself informed, and as always, be well and be best. Earnestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Earnestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.